All right, man. I thank everybody for being here with me this evening. Need y'all just take a seat, in breath, man. Center yourself. Kind of. Is anybody here? Because it don't look like anybody's here. Hang on a second. Somebody's got to show up. Everybody knew. I told everybody. Yeah, one person. Okay, one person is here. Cool enough. All right. So one person, if you could comment, that would be like super dupe and shit. Just throw a little message in the chat box, maybe. Say something. Let me help you out. To be like, oh. You know what? One person. Screw it. Going on with it. All right, man. You know what? Y'all bought the ticket. Sit down, man, because you're about to pay for the ride. All right. Tonight, I have with me a woman that has worked with me via email for some time. I told her that I needed a car, a vehicle that was used in Evansdale. And I said I needed Thomas Bruce's vehicle history. She got that for me. Now, when she sent that to me, man, it came in two lists, and I got the first one. I looked through it, and I'm like, I wrote her back, man. I'm like, man, I don't see it. I ain't seeing that vehicle that I thought I was. And a friend called me. So I went down to his house, stayed about an hour, came home, and when I opened my email was still there, open, and there was two more messages from her. So I hit the second one, looked at it. Well, it was the continuation of the vehicles. And right there was the vehicle. Now, tonight, I bring this lady onto my program as my special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Cavalier. How you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing really well, and how are you?
I'm doing fantastic tonight. Thank you.
Okay,
So,
and I am here at your behest.
tell
What do we
everybody about
have?
who you are.
Oh, yes. Um, I have a lot of experience, a little bit over 3 decades in state politics, writing budgets, doing research, and other duties as assigned. So I've done an awful lot, and it seems like you had such a simple request um, to find Thomas Bruce's vehicles. And by golly, it took me a while, but we did it.
And there it was.
And there it was.
Tell them how you went about finding that. Because
Well,
I got it, but
most municipalities now, counties, cities, townships, have their own tax rolls for personal property. And vehicles and mobile homes are considered personal property, as is some business equipment. So, if, say, for instance, a certain county, Jefferson County in this case, has tax records all the way back to, I believe, wasn't it 2009 or 10?
it could have been 10. I forget the exact number.
I think it was because you mentioned it to me. You went back through everything to look at those vehicles. But in 2012, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's the year that the Evansdale murders occurred, and what we found was a vehicle that matched the description of what the witnesses had said.
Exactly. And that's when I seen it, I knew that was it because it happened in 2012. And that's why I wanted the vehicles that he had in 2012. Now, like I said in the first list right there that you sent me, it wasn't there. And I wrote back and I thought, well, maybe his wife owned it, because I'm positive he had that car. But when I continued on and I saw it, I knew it was it because I had already went back looking for what would have been considered older style boxy white Suburbans in 2012. Well, I came across this make and model by chance.
Well, and I think that's another indication, Michael. There hasn't been one thing that I haven't looked for to confirm that hasn't panned out and become positive with Thomas Bruce as being the person that's committed these crimes. And you and I both agree that um, we think there's going to be more.
I do. You know what? I think that between Evansdale, Delphi, and the Mary Pryor murder, I think that that could be just scratching the surface as it goes forward from here. And I'll tell you what, we got a year, but chance, you know what? Smart Money says we could narrow down a couple more.
Oh, I think so. If the only problem that I'm having right now, and I think we chatted about this, was the state of California does not allow you to look at a lot of information, private information for their citizens. And that came after a particularly nasty murder out there in California that was televised, and the law changed. But fortunately, a lot of states don't protect their or their citizens with that much blanket coverage for privacy. But I guess the celebrities in California mandate other considerations. But we'll get it. We just have to be smarter and think outside the box.
You know what? I think I got his MO down. When you look at it, you can kind of tell by the brutality and the fact that the victim was weak, couldn't defend themselves. Those are things that he dwells on in his fantasy mind. And I think that that's what brings him forward. If it's in an area where he could have been, Smart Money says that he had to play at it.
Oh, and I agree. And I think there's something that we may not understand yet, but possibly will, that acts as his trigger.
I think alcohol plays in on that.
Oh,
I think it's part of the trigger.
I think that's a good part of the trigger. But I don't understand the psychological aspects of what makes him go into the Catholic supply store. He knew what he was doing before he walked in there.
Yeah.
He knew he was casing the place. But what makes him do that? I don't know. I can't even imagine it.
Well,
whether it's an alcohol perfect storm or if it's something that somebody said to him or a whole host of different things. I just don't know.
All right, we got, let me check my numbers here. 24 people here. I would like to unveil the car now, if you don't mind. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the list that you first sent me. If you can talk about that, I'll bring up the vehicle, but tell me when you're ready.
Okay, I'm going to let you announce the vehicle because you're the one that came up with it.
You found it.
Oh, yeah, I found it, but I knew what I was looking for from what you said.
Okay.
So you are totally the most awesome in this one. I just went out and brought you back what you needed.
Much obliged.
All right.
Now, this here is the vehicle. Now, we're to the left there. Oh, wait, that is not the vehicle. Where in the hell did the vehicle go? This is the list here. And I'm going to blow that up a little bit so everybody can see it. Exactly what it says here. Now, if anybody looking at that cannot pick out what vehicle it is, it's the 1988 Jeep Cherokee 4-wheel drive. And when I seen that, that's where I had that, aha, there it is, right there. That's the vehicle we was looking for entirely. Now, when I take this forward one, let me lower the size on this and go back over here. That's what it looks like right there. That is a 1988 Jeep Cherokee four-wheel drive. And that is the vehicle, not the same one. I want to point that out, but it's an identical version to the one that Thomas Bruce had used in Evansdale, right there. So that is what we had, and that's what I was hoping for, that he was in ownership of that vehicle, and he was pointing that shit out right now.
Well,
So
and Michael, what I did was I took what you had told me. We went over, I don't know how many times, the satellite photos that I think you had
yeah,
that identified the vehicle, but we couldn't tell what it was from the top of the car.
you know what? Hey, I do want to break in there. That is not a Jeep Cherokee that was in his driveway, because I didn't reference that to a Jeep Cherokee. The front end was too small on that. It almost looked like it was a big van that was
Huh.
in his driveway. It had like the short front with kind of an extended like window this way, where you could literally see papers on his dashboard.
I wonder if that was like a Town and Country Chrysler van, because they had those funny angled windshields.
Maybe,
That's what it
maybe.
reminds me of. But no, that Jeep Cherokee fits the description in the Evansdale murders to a T. And that was a good call.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It really because it went back like that. I mean, when I found that he had the route to his brother's house, I said he had traveled to Hoosier Heartland many times. That's how I knew Monon High Bridge Trail. But that also gave me the thought, okay, this dude drove. He was in a vehicle, and I knew that then when I found that. Then I was like, I got him. I know who did it. I mean, now it's no longer just like he checks out on all the criteria. Now I can show he drove and why he knew the trails. And then that set up Evansdale, because I thought on the reverse date and identical crime, you know what? Both were at play here. That's why he showed up at Monon High Bridge Trail. So that's what put me into the first suspicion that he had pulled both off. And finding this car really nailed that big time, because now I can conclusively say, yes, both crimes. It's a 100%. It's a lock. He did that. Both. If you didn't know it before, go tell your friends, because it's the reality of the game.
Oh, I agree. I agree, and that more records can be gleaned. I don't know what the DMV in Missouri has to have, but you could get I would think you could get a lot more information on that vehicle now.
Wouldn't I need a VIN number?
Uh, there should be a VIN number if you submit a FOIA request to the county. They should have a VIN number that's not on the website.
Okay. All right. You know what? That might be in the works here. Because I'd like to know who owned it. I'd like to know who he sold it to. I'd like to know if it was junked. They said it was clunky, a big clunky older style, so it could have been junked already.
Well, that about sums the description up for that vehicle. That's pretty obvious right there.
Yeah.
I'd like to see all of the other vehicles, because they're not. Let me see. I don't think that all the other vehicles that, at least part of what I've read, that people thought he had are actually on any lists anywhere. And I don't think that Kia shows up.
The Kia didn't. And that kind of surprised me when I was looking through there because that was in my first email to you. I said even the Kia wasn't in there. And we knew
Well,
he
I'm
had the
wondering if
Kia.
it was a borrowed vehicle.
Could have been. It may have been. Because I think that the vehicles of both him and his wife were on there. And it was kind of odd that the Kia wasn't there.
Well, the only thing that I noted was that his tax records are not there. Everything that I found was under her name.
Hmm.
So his tax records are not there, and law enforcement could have pulled those.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to say this. If they're going to pull his tax records for any reason like that, I would have to wonder why they didn't remove his Twitter and Facebook account because they're still open. You can still go look to them.
I don't know. Maybe they wanted the social media open for some reason to see if anyone else came forward.
See. Yeah, maybe.
But with the car list, that's kind of an official, semi-official list.
Now, I
And
noticed on the when he filed bankruptcy that he had a man, I think it was a 2012 Volkswagen Passat
Passat.
that was red. Now, people, when I talked about that, they said that there was rumored that there was a red car there at the CPS building, at the abandoned CPS building there on 300. But I thought, wait a minute. Rumor don't really add up. And if law enforcement felt that they had a make, a model, or even a color, they probably would have entertained us with that. You see where I'm at? And I just thought it could have been just as much rumor as it was anything. But that very well, because he had that vehicle around that time, it could have been the vehicle that he used to go to Delphi that day.
And that's true. And I'm just wondering if some of the area truck stops, gas stations, or anything else that had video of the highway that runs next to the trails would have had anything that could have provided information. And I mean, some of those cameras are pretty bad.
Well, I know that if he took 25, he would have had to go back to Lafayette, and that would have been an area where it would have got his vehicle photo. But I think at that time, because law enforcement didn't know what vehicle he was in, they didn't have a clear description of his face as to what he looked like. They didn't have anybody that gave the vehicle. So they was kind of at a loss, but they were looking at like local video of stores and stuff like that for any vehicles going by.
Well, he would have had to have stopped on that round trip um, at least twice for gas, I would think, because the trip back would have been cutting it close.
Well, you know what? He could have got up to, say, Indianapolis, pulled in, fueled up, then that would get him all the way up here and then headed all the way back down toward Missouri before he'd ever had to fill up again.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder how fast the St. Louis cops, law enforcement, contacted Delphi. It had to be pretty much within the first couple of days.
It was almost immediately. When he was arrested on the 21st, and that's how I first caught wind of it. I think I caught it in a newspaper article that came out that day. That like St. Louis County had contacted Carroll County concerning an inmate, made down there, and because really that was pretty big news. I mean, after he went into that Catholic supply store, that made international news. That was some big news. And that's where I heard it. But again, I mean, my theory on that. I think his fingerprints came back as the unknowns from Delphi.
They very well could have. I'm surprised that there isn't more people coming out and sharing their experiences with him as a friend. You know, there's been a lot of who, what, this guy? No, unbelief after he was arrested. But, you know, there you have it.
Yeah.
Whether he was that good at hiding things, and I guess these people are. I mean, but I just think there's a lot more out there, and some of it's going to be difficult to show.
Yeah.
But
Now,
certainly some of what his travels are, especially in the military in the late 90s, early 2000s,
yeah.
and where he was during that course, because if he didn't seem to have roots and a job for that time after he got out of the military.
You know, speaking on the job, and I went looking for it and I have it on my computer here, but I have a list of his jobs, his employment history. Now, it shows that he lost the job at Schnucks Grocery as general manager in June of 2012. Now, that's 1 month before the Evansdale murders, which also adds to it. Now, on my list of pictures there, and let me pull this back up again, if I may, real quick. I gotta get to it. I always gotta lower this, man. They make these photos are like stupid as shit. Well, you know what?
No, you don't have to talk about photos to me.
Yeah, very, very true. I have a little trouble with the phone, but yeah. Anyway, this right here is the profile on the Evansdale suspect. Now, this was in part made by the FBI. Now, I'm going to take you down to the part that really matters. The suspect may have been experiencing stress related to legal troubles, spousal problems, employment difficulties, financial strain, or mental health issues in July 2012. Well, that kind of covers the base on him. I mean, it really does, because that's exactly what was transpiring. You know, he had lost a job. You know, that probably put him in some financial issues, I'm sure. But I think that it goes deeper than that. I think that this guy has like a multi-personality disorder. I mean, he's like that super friendly guy. Nobody would believe he could ever do anything like that. But on the flip side, when he's drinking and he's triggered, the guy's very evil. He turns into a monster, a brutal bastard. And that is far to the other side of the paradigm from what people know him to be.
Well, Michael, I agree. And I kind of look at it a little bit different. And I imagine myself in a library. And each of those incidents that he's either assaulted or murdered someone in the past is like a book. And when he's done with it, he closes it, puts it back up on the shelf, and he may revisit it, but I don't think he has a full appreciation of the devastation that he causes families when he's doing this. I don't think he feels that. And that's just my opinion. I'm not qualified, but I'll tell you, I don't think I could live with that.
Well, you know, and I think I brought this up the other day to you, that when people go out and do that, and I've heard the profilers speak about it, they say they really are loving people to the people that they know. Their family, they have real empathy and love for. But the people that they're going to victimize, they're objects. They just become things of their fantasy that they're going to deal with as they wish. And, you know, all empathy and sorrow for them is lost right off the go. Now, I don't know whether he's one of them, and I don't know that any of them are really one of those people. But if there are those people, he could be one of those people. because everybody that knew him said, yeah, he's a great guy, man. He really is. He's a loving, caring, friendly guy, loving, compassionate. Whoa, 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 whoa. Can't believe he did that. Even his wife said that. Now, I don't know what to make of that, because one side's real and the other one's fake, or both sides are real, which would be hard to take, but I don't know the mind of a serial killer.
I don't either. And I've I started watching crime shows with my great grandmother back in the 50s on a small TV set with Dragnet on it. And she didn't know English, and I didn't know a lot of English, but she learned English from crime shows. And it was funny sometimes, the things that she'd say about Dragnet and Joe Friday. But she always was sincere, and that's how she learned it. And I think that's what spurred my interest in trying to figure out what makes these people tick and how they can live such normal lives without wives and kids knowing what what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to be damn good at what they do to hide all that. And it's a constant effort. It's not something that you can pay attention to for 5 minutes and then worry if somebody's going to get your stash in the basement or on your computer.
You know what? I did want to bring another piece into this, because I look at it like so. The reverse state of Evansdale was forthcoming to him. All right. I'm just using his mind. He knows that date is coming. Now, he filed bankruptcy. Now, his coworker said he resigned from his job, but honestly, the reason for that was he didn't show up for days. He didn't even call in. They just said, all right, he quit. He resigned. You see where I'm at? So I think that he may not have wanted a job because he knew where he was going to go and what he was going to do. Now, if that is the case, then I have to wonder, did he videotape or take photos of it? Because if he did, law enforcement has those. And let me tell you, if the guy wasn't hit hard enough, that's going to that nails him to the wall. What more can he say? I'm innocent? Dude, please. See where I'm at?
Oh, I don't. I think he's going to confess to it in the end. I think after the FBI and Indiana goes in there and starts having conversations, there's there very well could be a plea deal in the works already. But I need to ask you a question, because I don't think you and I have discussed this before. And it pains me to say that Thomas Bruce is a man of God. And I think probably in his own way, he thinks he's done justice to that. But what I'm trying to reconcile, I guess, is where, and I've heard it before with different men who claim to be pastors, but there seems to be an evil streak that runs in them where they believe in all this satanic cult and lifestyle, and they get caught up in it just by touching the edge of it. But it seems to play a part in what they're capable of.
It's cool that you do bring that up, because I've kind of talked about this with a few other people. In fact, one about 3 hours ago, him and I were talking about that. Now, he was talking about it in a relationship to something else, but it had already occurred to me, because at the viewing, there was scarf used around their necks, girl A and girl B. Now, I could assume that that was ligature marks, strangulation marks, what have you. But the simple fact is that on two different occasions on reverse dates, and that does kind of spell out a darker force there, if you see where I'm at, it being reversed. I have to wonder if one girl was not selected on behalf to be a sacrificial virgin. And if that was the case, because of the terror that would be provoked in that girl, could he had slit their throat to drink the blood? Because
You
that's
know, I
very
agree.
evil thing that a serial killer would probably take joy to.
And you know, that's possible. I didn't even think in those terms when I was asking this question. I I just, there are people who profess to be Christian and live the life, but then they're capable of this, and I think BTK was one of them.
Yeah. Well, right. BTK was the one where the guy was talking about him. He said, hey, to his friends, man, to his family, he really did have love. He really did believe in the Lord, and all this and that. Well, on the flip side, if that's true, why would you be out doing the devil's work? I mean, there's prices to be paid for, and you got to understand that being a Christian, you would think. Because a Christian would believe that. I'm not calling myself in that manner, but a Christian would know. And most people who are Christian would back me on that. Are you sure?
Well, it's just deeply troubling to me, and I guess maybe I'm too normal, and I just don't reconcile the differences in what this guy is actually capable of and can do and has done. And then to live a lifestyle serving Christianity in one size, shape, or form. And I think there's also something to question his mental capabilities. He's never had a successful career. I guess the grocery store business was the longest, wasn't it?
No, I think the Navy was longer than that. I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but the Navy, they kind of gotcha, don't they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. You don't just decide to quit one day.
And he did live, there's a lot of addresses in Escondido.
Yeah.
And that's a community that has gone downhill in the last, since the late 70s. I I have occasion to visit there, and the last time I was back, you could actually hear gunfire, and
That's a bad city.
that's a long fall for that town. So I don't know what it was like um, in the 80s. I really don't. It used to be pretty nice.
You know
But
what? I
not
would check
anymore.
an area around there, but I would check for like brutal rapes, brutal murders.
I don't know how many of those we can get. There's a lot of communities you and I have discussed that have rape kits going back years and years.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how available that information is going to be, but I might be able to get it through some of the crime reporting requirements to the state of California.
Try that. That could be a good lead.
Yeah, I think I might, and see if we can get it from there.
Now,
But
yesterday, go ahead.
go ahead.
Yesterday, I was watching. It was and I believe it was just a guy special like me. Well, he's got a YouTube or a web page. Well, I was looking at the Evansdale murders, and he was covering that. Now, when he got to a point, he brought up a similar crime that happened in Dayton County, Ohio. And he gave a name to that. So I immediately went to Google and looked into it. But I immediately found that another guy had admitted and was convicted for that. But it was very similar in style to the Evansdale murders. Now, Delphi is a duplicate, so to speak, except he didn't transport the bodies. He did, but he didn't. They were there. He didn't take them away from the area. I'll say that. But other than that, they're identical. Two girls at a trail, two girls abducted, two girls committed, a crime upon, and then he killed the two girls and left them by a creek. Both cases.
I'm just wondering how he knew about the Evansdale Park, Seven Bridges. I
You know
mean,
what? That could have been from online. He could have been just traveling looking. I mean, it's hard to say. It could be, but I think that that's one reason why they thought that the perpetrator was from around that area. But then again, you know what? Online, especially in 2012, anything could have been found out. I mean, anything could have been looked up, looked into, public areas, creeks, anything like that. In fact, he was probably looking for a local river or someplace.
that's very possible. I don't think of it in those terms. He probably did do an internet search for local parks and then happened upon the almost perfect spot where bodies wouldn't be found for 5 months.
You know what? I believe that he already knew of Monon High Bridge Trail. I think that he had stopped there many times in his travels to his family's house. I think it was his every time route he would take to Hoosier Heartland. Probably about every time too, either coming or going would stop there and hike, stretch his legs, that kind of shit. So I felt that he thought that that was a secure location. There wasn't very many travelers. He could go there, he could sit, he could wait. It wasn't highly, traveled. People wouldn't see him. And I think that that's what kind of gave him that's where I'm going. I'm going there. That's where I'm going to go and look and commit this murder at. Now, with Evansdale, I don't know if that worked the same because if he was traveling northward and just stopped in, then it could be different. It could have been, I'm here. Hey, there's two bikes. You know what? Maybe because he was a little drunked up. He gets very brazen like that, and it's what sets him off. So he could have been there to hike, same as what he did at Monon High Bridge Trail, and then ended up committing that crime. Or he could have went up there because he was off work on Friday the 13th, already having traveled north many times and stopping there, went there because it was kind of an unsecured location. In the same way, it's approximately the same size as Delphi, small trail. You got that little exit where somebody comes out if there's nobody there. A person could be grabbed. I mean, a person could be got in your vehicle and taken off. So it could have been one of two different ways. We could have just stopped through traveling, or he could have purposely went there to commit the murder and then come home.
I totally agree. I mean, if you take the Evansdale and the Delphi and set them side by side, there are far too many similarities than differences. That vehicle just seals it for me. And I think that on one hand, you did a good comparison between the Delphi and the Evansdale opportunity aspect of this case. And I think that's a good thing. I'd like to see more of Evansdale because I think that the Freedom Bridge being over the Heartland Highway is enough of an attraction to get
Hey,
him
hold
there.
on a second. Do I have a moderator here? Screw it. I'll do it.
What do we have? A troll?
Yeah, we got somebody just being a douche. I don't like that. When they start showing up running their mouth like, hey, if you really want to solve this, got one for you. Piss off.
Well, it's too bad that people have to do that.
Well, you know what? Half the time it ain't even a troll. It's just people thinking they know better. There's a lot of ignorance that thinks they know a lot of shit, and you know what? Half the time, I'm one of them.
Well, we all have to start somewhere, Michael.
Well, yeah,
I'm
but when
giving you a
you
hard
pull up
time, man.
things like that, it's like I don't know. It's like you're just showing up to be a douchebag. I don't tolerate douchebaggery.
Neither do I.
Hello?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
I'm still here.
Thought that I had lost you. See, I
Nope.
thought Alaska Blue was going to be here. I thought she was my mod, man. I thought that she was.
Well, maybe she just got hung up somewhere.
Yeah, probably because she's really good about being here, and I thought that she said she would, but you know what? She could have had family over, and that happens, as we all know.
Well, tell me
Family does
something. As far as the Monon High Bridge, how many times do you think he'd have to visit there to get familiar enough to pull this off?
You know what? I'm glad you asked. I'm very glad you asked because, as everybody knows, I was supposed to have a video out that was pre this video. Now, what that video is going to be, and I'll let everybody know because this is going to take 2 more days. Now, tomorrow I go back out to the High Bridge Trail. All right. But this time, because the first time I did a straight walkthrough from where the suspect started all the way to Monon High Bridge Trail, across it down the exact path he used over to the crime scene. I stopped the camera. I went around the crime scene twice so everybody could see the full of the crime scene. Then I turned it back on, and then I hiked straight back to the vehicle again, nonstop. Now that gives me a general walking time from all points. Now this time we're going to stop at the Freedom Bridge, but this time when we go through, we're going to stop at every location, film every location. You know, that way I can cut it into what it is I'm saying inside of the timestamp. I can actually halt that because I'm going to have a clock running. When I stop that, then we pick back up, the clock's still running. That way it'll be a complete timestamp and we can get all valuable information. Now, you don't want to miss that because that is going to be the timestamp. The timestamp. It's going to show everybody's point of view from a camera. Cheyenne, when she comes in, flannel shirt guy, when he comes in, from the killer's point of view, from where he's at, where they crossed paths, how Cheyenne didn't see him, how the suspect did see Cheyenne and held his ground, all of it. I'll have everything in it. And I'll walk across the creek, not once, but twice. The first time I almost lost my feet. That was cold as shit. You can ask the heavyweight champion of the world is here, ladies and gentlemen. He's giving me the ride tomorrow, and you can ask him. Former heavyweight champion of the world, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Weaver. Okay, I thought I would be more applause than that. But he is a very good old friend of mine, and he told me, I asked him last night, and he's like, yeah, man, I ain't doing nothing tomorrow, man. Let's get back out there. So we'll be out there. I'll get that filmed, and you do not want to miss that video, people. You don't, because that is the timestamp of timestamps. That's the one that knocks it out of the park. It's going to show the whole damn shebang.
Michael, do you think there are more witnesses that have never come forward?
No.
You think they got them all?
Yeah, there was only 2, but I say that for this reason. When he showed up, he didn't want to be seen. You see where I'm at? Now, he knew it was a secluded place and that the locals wouldn't know him by face or name. That's why I believe he parked in reverse there at the CPS building. That way people on 300 couldn't see his license plate. All right. So when he went in there, he was looking up ahead for anybody that would be coming toward him. That way he could like go over, maybe head down toward the creek, you know, just so people couldn't see his face. Now, the lady, when he got to the south side of the bridge, she was already walking her dogs. And I speculate that for this reason. They said he got there around 12. She's seen him at roughly around 12:30. That's when he arrived. Now, she was walking up the railroad track toward the south side. That's how she caught sight of him and they spoke. See where I'm at? Now, I know that she's seen him, and I know Flannel Shirt Guy seen him when he walked by him leaving, but those were the only two mentioned by law enforcement.
How long did law enforcement stay in that area of the crime scene?
Shit, for days.
Pardon me?
Days. Days they were there.
So did they have the entire park cordoned off?
It wasn't the entire park because the crime itself happened on Ronald Logan's property. That's
Right.
where he took him to. So from the south side of the bridge onward, you couldn't go. But you could walk up to the south side of the bridge, but they had that like cordoned off where you couldn't go off the bridge. They had that whole south side cordoned out. That way you couldn't get to it. But they had law enforcement there, man. They wasn't letting you in. When they was done with the CSI, those came out and you could. Now, when we first went there, that was cordoned off. Second time we went back, we took that trail down, seen the car path, followed it, and then we're all like, okay, man, dude, straight across is where the crime scene is. Okay, this is where it was. They went down that hill. This is the direction they went. They followed the car path because he was in the Navy. He had already went down there and scouted. He knew where he was taking them. You see where I'm at? Where he wanted them to cross the creek at. You know, where the crime was going to happen. You know, he had all that like already thought out in his mind. Now, when you ask me how big that trail is, the trail starts at County Road or at Highway 25. All right.
Right.
Now, you can walk that from Highway 25 at that trail all the way down to the bridge. I think it's probably a little less than 15 minutes to the bridge. But that is the trail. That is the whole trail. Now halfway down, then it starts a second trail because from that midsection where the two girls came in at, right there begins the second trail, which is the 505. But rather than going to the bridge, it bypasses off here just so many yards and follows it down, but it goes down to the water by the bridge. So I think that the whole of that is if you're walking up to the railroad bridge, you can look over and see if anybody's on the 505. When you get up on the bridge, you can look down and see, make sure nobody's at the end of the 505. So by the time you walk down to the Monon High Bridge and look over to your right, you have totally scouted the entire trail. You can tell that nobody's there. Now, once you cross that bridge, then you go down, you scout that lower section on the south side. That's when you know nobody's there. And the only way they're going to get there is by crossing your path. You'd see them coming.
So in other words, it appears that he knew what the foliage would reveal and that he'd be able to see from probably one clear trail most of that entire area.
Yes.
But not the crime scene, right?
No, from where he was at. Now, he was on the south side of the bridge, I believe, because what I'm doing is I'm looking at a picture that Libby took of Abby. You know the one I'm talking about?
Right, yes.
Now, you can see that north side hill. All right. And now that's behind him. Now, that's the direction we always thought he came from the north, because in the video of him, he's coming from the north walking to him. So it was natural assumption that he came from the north side. But I'm speculating the fact that he got to the south side, being there at 12:30, had scouted that lower area, and was on the south side waiting for someone to cross because he wanted to abduct them on the south side. So he needed them to get to the south side. Now, when these two girls went to the south side, I think that he came out, he got up far enough to where he could look down to the water where the 505 meets the water, make sure nobody had walked down there in that meantime where he couldn't see him, and then turned right back around because he had already said something to him. He had already made a very rude, crass comment to him, and they knew this guy was about no good. You see where I'm at? That's when she flipped her camera on, right there.
I wonder if whatever comment, whatever interaction they had, and whatever was said was enough to push him over his edge, whatever that has to take. A rejection, or they laughed at him, or somehow offended him. And then he said, "Well, I'll show you."
Well, you know what? I can't totally go with that, but I'll tell you why. He was there to commit murder. And
I agree.
I don't think that it took any triggering. I think that once he spotted the two girls, and that was like, exactly what it was he was wanting. So I think that once they got to that south side, he could have walked by, he could have said anything creepy, anything at all. But I think that he walked up far enough that bridge to make sure nobody was down by the water that could see him. And once he got up there and seen that, that's when he turned around. That's when it became a go.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I don't know, and you might because you're a local.
Yeah.
When they searched the next day on the 14th, were those searchers organized in a grid pattern?
You know what? I believe that they were. I'm not going to say that they were on day 2, but I do know in order to search those trails, it's really this easy. Say if I got 5 people, all right, 5 searchers, and I say one here, one halfway up to the trail, one on the trail, one halfway down to the creek, one down by the creek. Okay, we're walking this all the way down to Monon High Bridge. The trails at that point have been searched. You see where I'm at? It's a quick walk. 5 people could have covered that. The trails are done. You could walk across that bridge, check out the lower side, but hey, they're not at the trails. Now, everybody assumes that this is like very large trails that took like days to do. No, it's a singular trail it's like a 15-minute walk from the bridge to the next bridge. That's it. If you had 5 people and you walked that, it probably would have took you a half hour. The trails have been searched. They're not here. You see where I'm at? But that's when they started checking like local property. They asked the Maxwells. They asked Ron Logan. They probably asked the Webbers and the other lady. They probably asked everybody around there if they had seen anything, if it was okay if they looked through their property, because that's where they picked up the next day. Now, I can tell you on that night from when they started, they had went on to I think it's the Maxwell property. Somebody help me out if it isn't. I know the people's names, but it sits right there to the east of the 501, right before you hit the bridge. They had checked that. Now, when they got to Ron Logan's property, say I'm a searcher and I'm walking eastward and I'm looking for like missing lost girls, there's a huge ravine that goes straight down and straight back up. It's something that you would look at, and that on the other side is a horse field, and that they wouldn't have went that way, because why would they go into a horse field? That goes to Ronald Logan's house. That's it. You see where I'm at? And I think that once they hit that ravine, they said, yeah, they wouldn't have went here, man. They wouldn't have kept walking, which they didn't. They was taken around and over the creek to get there. To the area where their bodies were found.
But how deep is that ravine? I'm trying to get a.
You know what? We got, I'll tell you, do like so. Go to WKAT, put in WKAT investigates Delphi crime scene. Also add the name Tony and it'll pull it up. Because when we get to that ravine, you can see it. But for me to say, it wouldn't do it justice. I'll tell you this. It was in September. We walked through it. We got down to the crime area, and we was on our way back. And I told Greeno, I said, okay, take the camera. I said, walk quickly, but stealthily, all the way back to the 501. Well, he headed off. Me and Tony followed right behind him. We get down that ravine. We get up the other side, and Tony stops, man. He's like, dude, hey, man, can I get a drink of your soda, dude? Could I? Like, here, dude, you know what? You can have it. Because he was really out of breath. It's a deep ravine, and if you got to walk down it and then back up the other side, It'll put you out of breath. However, this is what I did, and this is what I'm going to do the opposite of the next time. I took the lower path. Now, here's why. And you just have to picture this with me. Like, say, here's the creek, all right? And it's running, man, from the east going west this way, right? Like so. All right, the bridge goes across, you come down. Now you got to cross that creek. Now, when I crossed that creek, water was, you know what? You can ask the heavyweight champion of the world, and I got video of it, but it was minus 18 minutes, 18 to 22 minutes after the crime, because I didn't like have that extended for as long as the crime took. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But in a much shorter time, you could see that my pant legs were kind of wet there, as to where I had crossed. Now, what was now, right. So when I got to the other side, what I did was rather than going northward up the big hill, up toward the cemetery, and then cutting left, I took the creek, like right along the creek. I went over like where the ravine ends, and then I went up a big hill. Okay. Which kind of took the place of that ravine. I went up the hill, and then I was back in the woods on that north side, and then headed back to the 501. Now, when I got right past the deer blind, I had the camera facing northward. But once I could see where the 501 trail was, I remarked to the camera that that's likely where he had seen Cheyenne. If he's seen Cheyenne, that was his approximate whereabouts, where he would have seen her walking. Now, at the same time, because I was continuing to walk, I turned the camera to the left where you could see the bridge off at a distance to my left-hand side. So you can bypass the ravine by taking the south side. That's what I did. Now, the next time through, I'm going up and then I'm cutting across at the cemetery. I think that if he had looked at that he would have took the south route. But the thing is he didn't want to be seen by anybody that was on the bridge coming out of that area. That means he could have went north and then took the forest there to the north side near the cemetery back to the 501 to avoid detection.
Well, yeah, I think he might have been in better shape than what his photograph assumes, because he had to get through that entire area, and then after the crimes he had to leave pretty darn quick.
Yeah.
And that's a walk if you're doing it fast.
I did it at a walk, and that's how I tried to keep it. It wasn't a slow walk, but it wasn't a foot race. 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, just kept walking. That way it would just be at all times, even when I hit the creek, straight across. When I got to the other side, straight up. Didn't stop one time. Now, that whole route, starting from the vehicle, all right, at the abandoned CPS building, up to the trail, down the trail, crossing the bridge, down the same route they did, crossing the creek, getting to the other side, stop the camera. All right. I walked around the crime scene twice to get good video of it. Now I got right back to the identical position where I was, restarted the camera again, that way I could pick it right up where I was. And then I started out. Now, the whole time was 23 minutes or 43 minutes walk time.
Plus whatever he needed to hunt, because obviously he was there for a while to hunt.
No, exactly. But what I'm saying is general walk time from his vehicle to the entire crime scene and back was 43 minutes. Now, again, that takes completely out of it the abduction, the crime, any time that he would have stopped if he seen Cheyenne. But we know that he was there 3 hours prior to. It was his arrival time. So all of that's taken out. You see where I'm at? It's like none of that mattered, because what I'm doing is I'm setting up the time of the crime. When he abducted him, like from her walk time here at 2:07 to the other side, if he was there and walked by and got up far enough, then turned back around, abducted him, and then took him across, that's what I'm looking at.
Now, let me ask you this, because I'm interested in knowing. With the Catholic store incident, what do you think his time frame was, both when he was scoping out the Catholic store on his first visit and how much time he was in that store the second time when he committed these crimes?
You know what? It really didn't say. I know that it said that when he went in, he was posing as a customer. So I think he was acting like he was wanting to buy something. Now, it said that he was going out to his vehicle to get a credit card. But when he returned, he had a handgun. That's when he ordered him in the back. Now, I don't think that took a real long time because of how fast. I mean, when they called. Now, I don't know the exact beginning time, but they withheld that. That way you wouldn't know the exact time. But I don't think it was overly long. And if you look at the Delphi murders, I have that whole crime right there at 20 to 22 minutes long. So I don't think that he really went into a long time at it. I think that he did what he was going to do and got out. And I think that that's exactly how it played. I don't think he was at the Catholic supply store for a very long time. Hang on, I'm going to show some more images here. In fact, let me back these images up if I may.
Okay.
Now, we're starting here. This is, of course, the Two Angel Trail, or I believe it is. That's where, in fact, that might be where they're buying. That looks like a field, though. It doesn't look like it's a part of Evansdale. Of course, this is the murderer here, and right there he looks very monstery. This is him looking very evil in court. Now, this here is the one that talks about the older style full-size SUV type vehicle, similar to a Chevy Suburban or a Ford Bronco, parked on Arbutus Avenue on July 13th. Now, that's the Jeep Cherokee. No doubt about it to me. And I appreciate that find. I really do. There it is, belonging to him, 1988 Jeep Cherokee four-wheel drive. That is the Jeep Cherokee. Now, this here is what law enforcement had said. I'm going to blow this up a little bit because I'm in part blind as of recently. Indiana State Police say similarities between the double slayings of two teenage girls 3 weeks ago and the unsolved 2012 murder of two Evansdale, Iowa girls are coincidental at this point. But investigators are not close to the idea of a connection. And see, this is what I said a long time ago. It's good that they said it like that because they definitely are connected. Now, that's on the thing. Now, right here, this is where the bikes were. Let me blow this up just a touch, and I don't know how well that's going to do. But you see it says bike route, no motor vehicles in there. But this here is where the two girls' bikes were parked at. Now, in the next photo, this is approximately, because it's right to the right of this. That's where his vehicle would have been, not on in front of this, but I'm showing this right here as a general area. But this right here is where you enter in. Now, the red circle is where he would have parked at, probably on this side here, I would imagine. And then this is where he would have went in. I think when he seen the bikes, that may have been the trigger. Hey, there might be two kids here. You see where I'm at? Now, this is the SUV here that he had, and I'm kind of pointing it over to here because that's where the three people had said they seen it parked, right there by the wood line, like right near the exit. So this is approximately where that vehicle was parked. Oh, shit, there it was, too. Here it is. Bam. Just so happens I had it on here. This department manager, Schnucks Market Incorporated. He worked there from December 2007 to June of 2012, 1 month before the Evansdale murders. 1 month before he lost his job. That fits right into the circumstances. He wasn't at work. He didn't have to be at work. He could be out in the daytime doing what he wanted. He didn't have any place to be. He had no one to answer to. You see where I'm at? And Friday the 13th being a day of bad luck, I think that he did that. I think that there may have been dark forces involved, like he was pertaining to, like a person of God taking that other side in. Because it's just crossed my mind that one girl, and as you know, the other girl was with her and had to go along. It's just the whole thing. You don't leave one behind, so to speak. But I think that one girl was targeted for virginal. The other one may have been like powered over, so to speak, because I think that he enjoyed both. And I think that kind of, it really did give new light to Evansdale. Anyway, those are the photos that I had. Thank you very much.
Well, I was looking at the Murder Project that keeps track of serial killers. Excuse me. Um, throughout the United States. Now, the map that I looked at was only the eastern half, and it seems like Indianapolis has a couple of serial killers active now. And there's
Yeah.
one just south, and I don't know what that means. Whether it's far enough south to include Delphi, or if there's something else going on that we just aren't aware of. But it looks like Indiana and Illinois have an awful lot of murders going on.
Well, Delphi isn't south of Indy.
Okay, forgive me. I thought it was.
No, I think Delphi is about 70 miles northwest of Indianapolis.
Okay, well, now I'll have to look because I didn't, for some reason, I thought it was south. And
Nope.
that's an embarrassing thing with everything else that I know about this.
No, Miss Cavalier, you could not be more wrong. You could not be. Look, you know who messed up a few times? John Kelly, profiler. And you know what? He says, "My bad. I'm sorry. I misspoke. I apologize, people." That's all you do. Because you know how many times I did it? A few. Man, I'll get pissed, man. I'll make a video and then, I'm quickly like, yeah, man, you know what? I really should have thought about that before I just started ranting.
Well, then, how far is Delphi from Chicago?
Uh, you know what? It's probably about, it's a little bit further to Chicago than what it is Indy. And I think that it's actually something like a middle ground between Indianapolis and Chicago.
Okay, I'll tell you, I had the scare of my life 3 years ago when I was driving back from Michigan to Chicago to catch a plane. And I thought I would be smart and get off in Gary, Indiana,
Whoo!
and look for a post office to ship some things back to where I was living at the time. And I got lost in Gary, Indiana. I was so scared, Michael,
I bet you was.
that I turned my video camera on and I finally found a post office. And the post mistress there said, "Honey, you get these boxes shipped and you get out of here because you are in the roughest part of Gary, Indiana that there is." And so I did. I listened and I got the hell out of there because 8 out of 10 houses were derelict and abandoned.
Yeah.
But there's some pretty bad people that run up and down those roads, especially, in the satanic trade. There's a lot of things that go on with that we've never touched on. With Satanism and cults.
Yeah, no, right. It's there. If you get
And
into
I
any
get
big
scared
city
about
like
that
that,
too.
you will find it because that's where it can be without being like seen. I mean, if you go into Kokomo and you have something like that, everybody's going to know about it. You see what I mean? It isn't that big of a city. You go to Chicago, LA, New York, you'll find that stuff pretty much in the open there.
Well, I think some of it's starting to filter down into our communities.
It has for a very long time. And I agree to that because I see it where I live. I definitely see it in some areas. I can't make note to it. I mean, I don't want to make note to it. I don't want to piss people off, but no, I mean, I see it though. I see how things are handled.
Well, and it does, and it's very scary. The world our children and grandchildren are going to inherit, nieces and nephews. But I just don't have a lot of experience with cult activity. I have, there were several cults, hippie style cults, where I'm from. They'd live off the land, but nothing that I was aware of in the recent past. And it's kind of scary knowing that kids are getting involved in this stuff.
You know what? Kids get
And that it
into
even
it
exists.
because, kids need a place. Kids need friends. And when you get those kids that are like isolated, that are insecure, those are the ones that they try to target. Because they know that they can talk to them, make them feel special, bring them in, indoctrinate them. And the next thing you know, man, this kid's all Satan's the master, hell, Satan, because that's how they were programmed. And those kids, man, at a certain age, man, especially in around through puberty, that's when those forces can really get in. And once you have a kid, it's like Hitler said, if you want the adults, get the children. And that's exactly how Satanism operates.
Well, now let me ask you this. It seems like I read something somewhere in a yearbook from Delphi, um, probably 20 or 30 years ago, that one of the clubs there at the high school put on some kind of a presentation about Satanism and how dangerous it was at that point in time. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't
Okay.
know.
I can't remember the name of the instructor, but it was in the school yearbook that they had a couple of teachers or administrators had felt strongly enough about it to present it to the school. Not just a few kids, but all the kids. And it dealt with Satanism, I believe, and cults.
Man, my brother is just texting me like a storm. He's sending me his entire life history. That's why you keep hearing that bling, bling.
Is he up for consideration in any crime that you're working on?
My brother? Not currently.
Yeah, I'm teasing.
Not currently, but give me time.
Okay.
Now,
If
you
he's
know what?
sending
My
you his
brother's in
whole
the
life
Navy, man. He's
story,
living down in San Diego.
the land of perfect sunshine.
That's the way he says it. You know what, man?
Yeah,
My brother's
it's true.
10. Oh, shit, he's 10, man. He's got like that great tan all the time. It don't even go away. Nah, not me, man. You know what? If I had freckles, people would think I was like an albino or something. I'm so
Well,
I glisten, man.
do you think that there's going to be more crimes that Thomas Bruce has committed
Yeah,
around the St. Louis area?
you know what? I mean, I can't say around St. Louis because I did find one that was just outside of St. Louis that I kind of marked as maybe. But I mean, there would be no reason for me to bring that forth. Now, I've talked about Mary Pryor because I do feel that he is the person that had did that. I really do. There is no actual further evidence other than his MO, where it was located, and the commission of that rape and murder. You know, all of that looks like him, all of it. But I think that right now, it's just opened my eyes to his how do I want like his modus operandi, the way that his mind goes during the commission of those crimes. I think it's very dark and it's very brutal. It's part of his MO. And I think that it's kind of easy to spot now. Whereas before it was okay, 4 girls died, we don't know how. We know this lady down there was shot in the head, and we know that there was like some real serious acts of sexual assault that transpired there at the Catholic supply store, things that are very unchristian like. But at the same time, now I'm seeing the rage, I'm seeing the brutality, I'm seeing the inner him. And I think that that's when I'm looking at it: a person dead, a person hidden, a person abducted, a person like brutally raped like that. That's kind of his calling card. And if I can place him in that area, he'll at least be a person of interest. Now, I wouldn't talk about them just like the other one. I wouldn't speak of that because I don't want to make it look like I'm saying he did it. But what I'm saying is he's got that mentality to be that person. But I think yes, over the next year there will probably be, I'm just guessing, probably 2 to 3 different other cases that would be uncovered within this next year that I could point a finger and say yes. In fact, when I'm saying yes, Mary Pryor, man, it turned a different eye to Susan Collins down in Tennessee. I mean, because that does befit his general rape style in the manner that that was done. That was brutal as all shit. That was an evil, evil shit that did that to her.
Well, and what's difficult from my standpoint, at least, is not being able to nail him down to a certain type. I think he's a murderer who relies mostly on opportunity
Yeah,
than anything else because he doesn't care.
you're
It
right.
appears that he doesn't care who he kills, what their ages are. He just wants to kill.
Well, you know what? I mean, I do take kind of a thing to the one part of that because I don't think it's that he's just out to kill anybody. I think that he is definitely after a weaker person, like an elderly person,
Oh, I
or a
agree.
child that can't defend themselves. I think that he feels comfortable in committing those actions against them. But I don't think it's just a matter of I'm out to kill any woman. I think he really seeks on the weak people. You know, that's who he wants to brutalize, and that's what makes it so monstrous. In fact, I mean the 4 girls, I could put those down as possible sacrifices, virginal, you know, to the other side because you got the godly side, you got the satanic side. You know, you got like 2 sides of a personality disorder, kind of that conflict with each other, which brings the drinking in. It's a self medication. It also gives him the courage to commit and to live with what he's done. You see where I'm at?
Do you think he has a conscience that he thinks about what he's done?
You know, I think that he did, but now this is me, man. This is just what I've looked into. Take it as that and nothing more. Normally, when a person commits like crimes of brutality, brutal rape on somebody, it's a learned behavior. Now, it would be different if it was different. But I'm going to say that he probably had a domineering mother. He may have had an alcoholic, abusive dad. Somebody in his family probably forcefully raped him when he was little. And, these things built up through puberty. That's why he plays the normal guy, but deep down inside, he's very sick. This is the way that he wants to react in bed. This is the way that he wants to treat these unknown weak women. He wants to treat them in a manner like he felt he was treated. You see where I'm at?
Yeah, I agree. I'm just trying to make sense of it, and I can't wrap my head around it. I He's done some awful things,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine what Mrs. Schmidt went through at the Catholic store. Um, I'll bet she denied, and he shot her just that quick.
Yeah, I do too. I'm with you. I think she said, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that," and I think that was the end. It
There was
didn't.
no room for discussion.
Yeah, it didn't take anything more said. Okay, guess what? Game over. You two. This is what I'm saying. Okay. Hey, whatever it is you need, bud.
But I don't know how. The statistics show that there are fewer serial killers active in the United States than there were in the 70s and 80s. For some reason, there were a lot more. And we either got better at catching them, or for some reason, they just aren't identified.
You know what? I'm going with your first one there. Because I think today they can narrow it down really quick where they couldn't have back in the 70s. I think that we got further tools, and within one or two, they're a hit. They can't continue on like a Bundy or a BTK or Gary Ridgway, or, it's because once these people start coming up missing, once these bodies are found, they can quickly uncover the travels, who they was around, who they was with, fibers, DNA. I mean, there's so many tools that they have today that I think that they can catch them quicker. And that might be one reason, because I'll tell you right now, if you look at the 1970s, where were all the mass shootings? But look at them today. Every month, a new mass shooter. It's kind of, I think we got better tools, and that's why it looks like there's less. I think they're found much quicker, where they don't get a whole lot of murders behind them.
That's very possible. And I'm glad for that, because it just makes me sick what these people must be capable of that we don't even know, and what they do to our kids. I
Yeah.
mean, and old women.
Old
I mean,
women,
for
man.
instance,
Old women and kids, man.
I don't, it's hard for me to understand. And I just don't understand people with those capabilities. There was a serial killer when we first moved to Alaska, and it was Robert Hansen.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he was a baker, and Alaska was so small that a lot of people knew him. And that's just when we were getting up there, so we didn't know him. But I have friends that were neighbors of his, and nothing that they saw for 15 or 20 years led them to believe that he was capable of taking women out into the woods. And I mean, these are woods. These are not what's around the trail in Delphi.
Yeah.
Some of these places have never been walked and never been surveyed. And never been touched by anything except wild animals. And when you've got a
Damn.
person that can fly somebody out into the bush and let them go and hunt them, I don't get. I mean, I even felt this guy's evil. You can feel it. I mean, it exudes from him, at least after he was caught. I don't know what he did beforehand. But there's just a lot of that goes on. And there's another one, Michael, that is, for all intents and purposes, solved. Law enforcement knows who did it. He was tried, I believe, twice, and they couldn't find him guilty. But it was John Peel that killed those 8 people on board a commercial fishing boat in Alaska in the
Okay.
80s.
Yeah.
They could never get him. The technology just wasn't there. You know, DNA technology. That was done in the 1980s. And a lot of investigation went into that by a lot of people who were very smart. Only they couldn't get him. They could not convict him. And I mean, I think his defense cost about $1 million. And his parents, I believe, lost their farm down in Washington State. But they could just never convince the jury that he had done it. And even if they revisit it, it wouldn't do any good. Like the John Benet Ramsey case.
Yeah, John Benet, I remember that. I remember that, and I was looking into it at the time. Internet was available at that time. It was still rather new, but when internet became available in 95, we had a computer with Windows 95, man, like that quick. And I thought it was the greatest gift on earth. I thought, holy shit, I can look up anything. You know, that was the biggest news to me. I didn't have to go to a library. I could enter keywords and bam, there it was. Now, the computer has become way different than that now, because back then when you look something up, it was probably the real deal. You look something up today, you go, see, Google says. Well, guess what? Google's an idiot like the person that wrote that shit. That's me. Man, I remember back when Google was the library. Hello?
When you stop and think about how many of us used to rely on paper in our jobs and books to look up the law, to look up facts, and a lot of it took a long time to do. Many moons ago, I used to skip trace, and you'd have to look, I would say, 50 times the amount of time that it takes now to just Google somebody's name. You'd be knee deep in census books forever. And people just don't even think about going back to the old ways.
I do.
And sometimes you have to get information.
You know what? Do you know who Icons is?
Yes.
I was talking to him earlier today. Now, he had sent me a video of Nancy Pelosi talking about Trump, of course, not being fit for office. And that's what she said. And her left eye, man, just kind of opens. And it's just like, it was really weird because it was live on Fox News. And I told him he wanted to know if it was doctored. I said, well, did somebody send it to you or did you record it live? He goes, no, you can go to YouTube and go right to the Fox channel and watch it live. I did. It was identical to his. And it was very bizarre. But I told him, man, I said, there's a way around that, because if it is doctored, look up the live report, and
Uh-huh.
see if it looks the same. If not, the person recorded it and then, made that little highlight. But it was real. I mean, it was real, but, because he was saying that the person sent it to him said Nancy Pelosi's a reptilian, and I'm like, yeah, but I have seen some fake stuff like that. I told him about George W. Bush Sr., man, at an interview one time, and they said, if you don't believe me, every time he blinks, hit the pause button. Well, every time he would blink and start to open his eyes were white. I'm like, man, you would never overlook that if you were sitting across from him, but it's on the camera. Anyway, it's one of those things you really need to fact check what it is you're talking about. You know what I mean? You have to
You
make sure
have
it's
to,
real.
because there's so much impossible to believe news out there. And, I'm just, right now, I am stuck on not being able to get more information about where Thomas Bruce lived and the unsolved crimes in that particular area.
Well, you know what? This is me here. If you looked at where he lived, I mean, like, let's use St. Louis as our base point. Well, he wasn't out there, to my knowledge, out around St. Louis committing murder. Now, he did at the end, but I feel that was on behalf of C.C. Moore, and he knew they was going to come knocking at his door one day quick. He didn't give an F. You see where I'm at? But prior
Uh-huh.
to that, he would travel outside of where he was at. He went to Iowa. He went to Illinois. He was in Michigan visiting. You see, so he wouldn't really do it like right in his neighborhood. But if you check surrounding counties, especially if it's a big city, if you check in or around that area through the time he was there, and you come up with any brutal rape and murder where they found the body, that's where I'd be looking first.
Oh, and I agree. It's just, I'm going to have to get into some newspaper archives, I think,
Please do.
to
You
get
know,
that information out.
hell, I'd like to find more on him, and I'm doing my own search. I'm looking through them around through these parts, but I'm kind of working my way in reverse, because I can go back to 97, I can go back to 2012, I can go back to 2017, and I can do this from where he was. But going back beyond that, especially if it's in a big city, well, then that kind of breaks it down. Delphi? Well, who in the hell's going to do that in little town Delphi? I needed the name first, but once I found it and I started looking in, there he was. I did find him. All right. But if you're looking at like LA, man, I can tell you right now, living in LA, there's a bunch of serial killers. There's some madmen out there, so it really kind of takes, I would say investigation, but even at that, you wouldn't know he travels through like a big city. You wouldn't know where he goes. You wouldn't know who did that. I look specifically at the motive where I can say, yeah, maybe. But, even at that, it's just like Mary Pryor. I can look at that and say, yeah, he's a primary person of interest, no doubt. But I can't say he was there. If I had these DD 214 that said that he was off, yeah, then I would name him as total suspect. I'm positive he did that.
Well, and I don't doubt it. There's a lot of unsolved murders in Flint. And Flint has been through a lot over the last 30 years since I left that area, 40 years. But I don't even know if the sheriff's department down there has enough money in their budget to keep track of these murders, to even understand that they happened. And I'm not sure that, they're trying to keep their head above water with the crime that they have to worry about now. and I'm just not at all positive they're getting the past murders and keeping cold cases somewhat warm. And I hope that's not the case, because I think as Thomas Bruce's history comes out and where he's been and what he's been doing, that there's going to be a lot more contact between the St. Louis Police Department and other smaller venues across the country.
Yeah, I do too.
But then again, the FBI is going to be the best source for that because they've got the capabilities.
Are you ready to take caller questions?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get right to this. If you got a question for Miss Cavalier, right there's the number. Bring it. You can call. You can talk to Puppy. He is a Cavalier King Charles.
Yep, that's Bob.
That's Bob.
That's Bob. It's
And
Bob and Wolfie.
yeah.
And Michael, I hate to tell you this, but my dog's cuter than yours.
No, how dare you? Why would you say that to me?
Because it's true.
No. You know what? I'm very lucky that was in the other room. He would have got with that. He would have. I tell him every day when I'm loving him up, you know, he's the best puppy ever. Man, if he would have heard that, Miss Cavalier, if he would have. But they'd make a hell of a team.
Mm-hmm. They would. Bob is smart and he figures things out before he gets there.
I love a smart dog, man. I do.
And believe me, he is fast on his feet.
I want to point out that Incognito Society was here, and I am subscribed to her channel. And if you are not, get to her channel and subscribe. She has great, valuable information on a lot of unsolved cases. I love watching her channel. I can't wait for a video to come out. In fact, let me go back and see if I can't find a... oh, it's probably way up there. And you know what? She probably left already.
Well, Michael, I'm going to just butt in here and say that I agree. She is an intelligent person.
She is?
And that would make a good video or live call-in right there.
We did that.
I know, but have her join the two of us, and then we could rip apart all these murder cases and get them, at least people thinking about them again. If
she wants to, all she's got to do is put right down here, yes, and I would private message her the thing, and she could pop right in with us. We could put we could put 3 people on here right in a minute.
Well, since it's your show, I am going to bow to you and let you do whatever you please.
Well, if she wants to join, she can.
Because I'm a guest.
You are a guest, but you're a great guest. This is why I be here. You brought forth the information. You brought forth that final nail to the coffin. You see where I'm at?
I did, and it's been fun. It's been a challenge, you know, to look at what you can find about Thomas Bruce and all the stories. I've heard of a story that he got weird with somebody in the Walmart once, and it was reported to the police department after the murders down at the Catholic supply store. But I don't know how much of that is actual fact and how much is rumor.
Okay, I think I sent that to her on private chat, but I don't know that she got it. Or maybe, or do I have to? Oh, there's Alaska Blue. Okay, Alaska Blue is here, everybody. Outstanding. No, you can't do it like that. Can't do it like that. I don't know how to send a private chat to someone. So give me a second. Give me a very quick second. I'm going to just email it to her. But keep talking, please. Don't leave everybody hanging.
You mean you want me to talk?
Yeah, just talk, man. Like,
Well,
I'll never forget this one time. Just ramble.
just ramble.
Just say shit.
Can I talk about a case that I'm following real close in another state?
Please do.
Okay. Um, about 3 years ago, April 22nd, 2016, I think it was, 17, 8 family members in Piketon, Ohio were murdered in 4 different crime scenes. Then you had a marijuana grower, 2 or 3, and just a big annihilation of an entire family. And these people lived a different lifestyle than a lot of us do, but no one deserved to be shot in their sleep. And for some reason, I think due to the lifestyle that they led, there hasn't been as much attention paid to those crimes now that arrests have been made. And the family that did the shooting is working their way through the justice system very slowly. And they've been in jail for about a year.
Yeah.
But the Piketon, Ohio murders are particularly heinous because the people that are accused of committing them appeared, for the most part, to be normal, everyday people, just like you and I. And they had a custody issue and planned and surveilled and stalked this family for several months and just went in one night and shot them between 9 and 1 time, mostly in the head. And for the next 3 years, they moved to Alaska. They did just about what they pleased until BCI put a case together and finally arrested them. And it's kind of like the Delphi thing, that law enforcement played it real close to the chest,
Yeah.
didn't let out any facts. And one day people woke up and this family of 4 plus 2 grandmothers were in jail. They had been arrested. No advance notice, nothing. And then it really hit the fan because the motives came out. Um, more of the cruel and heinous method that they used to kill these people, and all the surveillance that they did. They even had surveillance on dogs.
Wow.
They had cameras on dogs to track where everyone slept, where they would be. And I think there's a lot to come out. Um, in fact, I think it's just southeast of you in Ohio towards the southern border.
Yeah.
But it's another case of how someone can look absolutely normal and be able to go in and kill 8 people, leave 3 babies, and about 10 dogs alive.
Well, you know what? I give them this. They left the babies and the dogs alive.
Yeah, and that's probably something that helped catch them. But the state of Ohio has spent millions and millions of dollars bringing these people to justice. And right now, there's so much evidence in court that all of the defense lawyers, which there are 4 death penalty charged sets of attorneys defending these people, there's so much evidence, Michael, that they are hiring or they've asked to hire a discovery coordinator. Now, the amount of evidence in my mind is very difficult to comprehend because it's in terabytes. And they have had to turn over 8 terabytes of information. Pardon me?
8 terabytes.
8 terabytes. I
That
didn't
is
believe
a
it.
lot of information.
I
Like
didn't
my
believe it
life
at first.
couldn't even fit on that many.
I had never. I think a RICO case in federal court could come close, but there is so much evidence in this trial that I think the defense has given up trying to win it. They're just trying to mitigate the death penalty at this point.
Incognito is here with us.
Hello.
Well, hello, Miss Incognito.
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Well, we're having a chat. Thank you.
I know. I've been listening.
Glad you're here.
It's good.
Well, Miss Incognito, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Are you from the Midwest?
I am. I'm from Indiana.
Okay. I was originally from Michigan.
Okay.
So we've got the Midwest connection going on.
Definitely.
Help me understand
Okay.
what kind of Satanistic cults may be out there that would have any bearing on the Delphi case at all, or Thomas Bruce.
Yeah. And Michael's talked a lot about that and the Masonic side of things. And I'm not familiar necessarily with the Masonic Mason Lodge or anything like that. Being satanic, I've never heard anything bad until I got older. So I don't have a lot of history on that as far as satanic cults in the Midwest. I mean, you definitely hear about them.
Yeah.
Definitely. And, one of the comments tonight was that the reverse date of the Catholic Supply Store was 8/19/11, which is the release of the West Memphis 3, which, I mean, we're going way out there now, but that is very satanic.
It is.
In nature.
Yep.
So, I mean, if there's a connection, let's say Thomas Bruce went down that road and he was trying to carry on their satanic killings, he reversed the date and went out on that day and committed the crime. I mean, that's going way out there, but could be.
I agree, but you know what? I mean, without theory, you never come to a conclusion.
Sure, exactly.
So, I mean, you got to have the theory to look into before you can find anything evidentiary.
Right. I wish I could add more to the satanic side of things, but I actually don't have a lot. But I thought that was an interesting comment. Do you know a lot about it, Miss Cavalier?
I don't. And I'm trying to ask probably the most intelligent people that I can find what they think about it.
And you asked me, of all people.
Yep, I did.
Well, you are intelligent. I told you. Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Because I think it's out there. I think we just have to do more than scratch the surface on this one.
Oh yeah, and there are so many coincidences. I mean, if TB is not the Delphi killer, he is the most coincidental, if that's a word. In comparison to everything on this case. I mean, you can make a case for every single aspect. And we don't have a person of interest in this case other than him that matches every single thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm happy you brought that up.
Speaking of, and not to change the subject, we can always come back, but while I'm thinking of it,
Mhm.
on the Garrett Kurtz subject,
Yeah.
and I understand a lot of people are, finding out about the Ray Hanish killing now, and that apparently he's confessed to that. But I believe he had priors and would have been had in the Delphi case first
Yes. Yeah.
because his fingerprints, his DNA, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
So he's not connected to Delphi.
No, but yeah, I've always said the same thing. I said, look, when I looked into him, I found like arrest prior to that, and that canceled him out right there.
Okay.
I mean, to me, immediately once I find that, because that's first on the criteria. Were they arrested prior to February 13th of 2017? If they were, they'd know who he was.
Exactly. Based on Kim Riley's interview that you did,
Yeah,
you asked him specifically, and he said it seems as if this person has not committed a crime before. Garrett Kurtz had
yeah,
prior to 21317. So, in those 2 years before he committed the Nicole Bowen murder, he would have been had for the Delphi case immediately. That's all I want to say.
hang on. I did want to introduce Peaches Dixon here. I'm glad you made it, Peaches.
Hi, Peaches.
I'm glad you got here on time.
Hi, Peaches. I want to know how people come up with their pseudonyms, because I had to really think about mine before I knew I would respond to it. And ask Michael. I was all worried about that.
Yeah,
But
I like it.
so is Incognito. Why do you think he's Incognito, man?
Incognito
He's
is
like
good.
Thank
And
you.
most of the good ones are taken.
I like Miss Cavalier. That's
Yeah.
snazzy. It's
Yeah.
classy. Mm-hmm.
Well, I
Where's
didn't
the
even
picture,
capitalize
Patrice?
my C there, so
Hey, that's
I
all
was
right.
just happy to have Avatar to get in there, because
Absolutely.
that was an issue too.
Well,
But
good.
I'm here.
That's right.
So
Good job.
now Michael's made it pretty clear when he expects news of an arrest or charges.
Yes.
When do you think, Miss Cognito, they're going to move on Thomas Bruce with the Delphi and Evansdale?
Well, I'm a fan of Michael Catt. He's the person I followed long before my channel ever started. So when he got on the Thomas Bruce train, I kind of just been following how he's been talking about it. And everything leads to the fact of why have they stopped talking about Thomas Bruce, right? Delphi won't talk about it. ISP won't talk about it. So, in my opinion, what Michael has said, we won't know until this trial happens or after the trial happens in the Catholic supply store, which we probably won't find out until 2021.
Yeah, the trial goes to jury in October 2020, but I feel at the same time that once that trial is over, once he's sentenced, he's got to go get his DOC number, and then he's open game.
Right.
So that could take a couple months thereafter. It could be looking December, January, and even when they get him to admit it on everything, all cases involved, I think they'll come out at one shot, probably in or around February 13th, the 4-year marking of the Delphi case, and make it one big announcement.
Yep. Because I don't see it happening.
Let's try this scenario.
Okay.
And Michael and I have talked about this kind of from a different perspective as far as pleas go. But what if, just say, the prosecutors all like each other and they want to go into this with a single mentality of just getting this guy to admit what he's done and maybe taking a plea. as opposed to going to trial in any of the cases, because they're going to be so notorious, it's not going to be funny. And if they got a plea, they would have their guilty party, but they wouldn't have a lot of the facts out, like the Jamie Kloss case.
Okay.
It was pled out and not much of the facts came out. And I know that that's what they wanted. They didn't want to embarrass her and put her through that.
Right.
So what if they did that and just kind of never had a trial about anything? Just guilty, please.
You know, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead.
Yes.
Do you think?
Go ahead.
They're going through with the trial in Missouri. He's already pled not guilty, and they're going through with that. I think they're going to go each individual crime. In comparison with Jamie Kloss, Jamie is still alive, luckily, and they don't want her to have to endure anything more than, like testify against him or anything like that. In these cases, there's not going to be testimony from the victims. So I think that they'll go, because he's already pled not guilty in the Jefferson County case, which that victim is still alive. I guess there are 2 in the Catholic supply store killing as well, and the assaults. But I mean, unless something transpires in the next year, he's pled not guilty to both of those cases, which it'll go to trial. That's just my opinion. We'll see what Michael has to say when he gets back.
Sorry.
But I have seen prosecutors do some silly things.
Oh,
and I don't mean.
Yeah.
I've seen them do deals that I wouldn't have done, but they're looking at at least $20,000 to $25,000 a trial.
Yeah,
and
the
that's
Delphi
with
was
a single prosecutor.
Right. Well, the Delphi case,
And I don't know
think
what their budgets look like.
Yeah. Well, I think this Delphi case is just so huge. There's no way that they would. I don't know. What do you think, Michael? Do you think they're going to?
I'm looking at this in like 2 different ways. One, this guy is going to be Ted Bundy big.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yep. He's going to be huge. He's going to be BTK, get big.
Yep.
Now, with that much high profile behind the case, if Delphi just said, if they approached him, because I think that this is what they might do, they might say, look, man, we got you. However, if you tell us everything that we want to know, everything, and plead guilty, we might be able to drop that from a death sentence and get you life without parole. You'll be doing that down in Missouri. Sound fair? But the thing is like Evansdale. Well, what do they have that ties them to Evansdale? A vehicle, and that's what Ms. Cavalier had found was the vehicle.
Right.
But that's it. They don't have DNA. They can't say he was there. Nobody can say, yeah, I seen that man there. There is no DNA. So they're really lacking evidence there from what I understand. In Delphi, they got him, but we're a death penalty state. So they could use that to get him to open up on everything, and we'd never know. But the flip side of that coin is this: if it's like Ted Bundy big, if it's BTK big, in the same way where they showed like the interviews in the courtroom with BTK, him explaining everything that he did. I think that while I don't care to hear about what was done to the girls, and we got to remember these were minors, that this was done to. And that could really cut some water, but it's just the fact that not so much about how the murders was done, but damn it, I want to hear him admit to everything else that I had given out as evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not for me, but it's because everybody should know that.
Right.
Now, when it comes to the murders, and usually when it involves a minor, they usually kind of shut down the courtroom to where only the jury can hear that. Take them into a side room, stuff like that where that's mentioned. And I could see leaving that out. But as far as taking him to court and going for murder, that'd be the first thing on my docket. Get that guy in here. Let's nail him to a wall because I'm this prosecutor and I want his death on my menu. That would be me. And if people like that, great, fantastic. Vote for me to prosecute. I'll take the job.
Exactly.
You're cool. You're all right. And you guys can go home. Bye. You're going to fry. Sit your ass down. Because that's how I prosecute, man. No victim. See ya. I'm a real American prosecutor.
We need more of them.
Well, you'd get it done efficiently.
I'd get her done.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd lynch him off the old Monon High Bridge. Publicly.
Used to be people, though.
It's going to happen at 12 noon. We're dropping him. You'll see it happen. Pop the head right off.
That'd be awesome.
That's how we do shit in Delphi. Now, if this young prosecutor ain't got the testicular fortitude to actually do that, I don't think he should be prosecutor anymore. I think that he has failed Carroll County. Correct me where I am wrong.
No, you're exactly right. Which bothers me why Robert Ives came back into the case just for that 422 presser. It's like, what was that for?
You know what? I cannot say, but I did question that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I really can't. You know, in fact, I think it may go like this. Maybe Robert Ives wanted to prosecute that case, right?
I would if I was him. Yep.
But I think that, like, through that time of not finding him or having a person of interest, I think that he was bailing out because he didn't want to prosecute, just in the general concept of prosecuting. So he let that go to the next guy. Well, when that next guy got it, and understand at that time, you know what? We'll put it at November 23rd or 4th. Carroll County knew who did it. Now, when they knew who did it, and they went to Ives and told him, said, dude, we got the guy. Okay, great. I'm doing this. You know, I'll come back for that one. Because I think that they wanted an older prosecutor, one that's prosecuted and knew what the hell he was doing.
And maybe somebody around his age that would talk to him. You know, TB might be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? His ego might not take to a younger guy.
You know what? They would want that, though, wouldn't they? I mean, they would want him getting a little uppity toward the court, man, kind of show his attitude.
That could be a whole angle. Yep. That could definitely be an angle.
You know what? I don't really know, but I can tell you this, man. In Carroll County, they got him. I mean, what don't they have? They got DNA. I say they got fingerprints, too. They got two people that seen him. They got him on video. They got his full audio. You know, they know he did it. They know so well that he did it. He knows that they know he did it.
Yeah.
Because when they went and got his DNA, he's like, man, I'm effing hit for a whole lot of shit. A whole lot. Like, life without parole is meaningless to what that they can give me.
Exactly.
Hey, by the way, man, I put the phone number up. Did anybody hear crickets? Anybody? I hear them.
Nobody wants to call and talk?
Yeah, nobody gives a crap, man. We got 53 people here, man. 53 people. Nobody calls. Nobody cares, but they like listening.
Yeah.
So please keep talking.
Hey, I have another.
Well, come on, folks. We could use some good questions here.
That's right. Was it Devil that called in the other night? That was a really good combo.
He's a great caller, man.
Yeah, it's good. Hey, on that Garrett Kurtz thing, just for the sake of saying, and I was going to email you just to say hey about it, but wouldn't Flannel Shirt Guy or the lady with the dogs, being Delphi so close, wouldn't one of them have maybe recognized him as a local also?
Yeah, you know what? I can't really say.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. He was a young kid. I doubt that he was like right around them all the time, given where they lived, where he lived.
Sure.
You know, but I mean, it's possible, but I think that if either one of them would have knew him, And upon seeing the photo, if it looked like him, they probably would have gave him as a person of interest.
Yeah, a year ago
Yeah.
when his photo came out. Exactly. I think I'm just trying to check him off the list for, every possibility, and it's just like one thing after another. Definitely not.
Well, and again, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, same as I always do. Everybody says like I'm obsessed with it being Thomas Bruce. I'm like, no, he's the only person I've found that fits all the criteria.
Right.
Now, if somebody else came along that fit that criteria that had better circumstances, okay, I could put him to the side because I'm now looking into this guy. But as of right now, I mean, I can say that I'm 99.9% positive that Thomas Bruce did both. I'd say 100. I'd say 100 if I could see his face clear in the video, but I know it's him. I know well it's him. Man, I showed him walking with these hands with his head down. That's how the guy walks, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a part of his character. It's who he is. You can't take that out. By the by, man, I'm reading a book called What Everybody's Saying.
Mm-hmm.
Look into that book. Anybody that cares to, because it speaks a nonverbal language, like when we use our hands. People, when we do this, point, smirk, anything, our feet, our legs, our torso, how we sit. It is so remarkable, and it was done by an FBI agent that does this during interviews. Okay. And we can tell how the person's thinking about each question by how their body reacts, and then they go back and redraw up the questions. And I thought it was so fascinating, man. It's such a great book, man. I highly recommend it to anybody. Wow. Poker players, it's the book to have. Even if they're keeping a poker face, man, you can tell that they're holding something good.
Nice.
It's a damn good book.
I thought about putting together a while back a video going back through some of the press conferences, watching how the officers, whether it be Doug Carter or whoever, talking, and put the psychology of, are they looking to the left, up, down, around when they're answering questions? So I'll have to look into that book and see.
You know what? I'm glad you said that because I hadn't even made that equation yet. Yeah. I never even thought about going back and look at those for body language. Mm-hmm. When I'm done with it, man, I very well may. But you got to understand, okay, it's like with Doug Carter. When he's up there, man, he's pretty much reading from script.
Yep.
And that kind of differs from when we say. I mean, I could sit and read a lie. You see where I'm at and not even act like it's a lie because this is how I'm talking when I'm speaking to a crowd with my hands.
True. Yep.
See where I'm at?
Yep.
But at the same time, if it's just in a question and answer thing, like with
like at the first year conference,
as an example, when the person was just talking to him and they interviewed it, then you can get a sense of what they're doing because that's a question he didn't know was coming. So he's answering that off the top of his head. That'd be a good place to look for body tells.
Yeah. When you guys asked him about at the first year presser, I think, out at the bridge or out at the trail, and I don't remember which one of you asked about Daniel Nations. And he's like, well, we went out there in Colorado and we had a chat with Daniel Nations or something like that. I would love to look at that again.
I got that. I mean, I got that whole press conference on there, but it wasn't anything that we had asked.
Oh, okay. Somebody in the audience.
What happened was when he came out, he brought that up immediately. Okay, he said, I want to talk firstly about Daniel Nations. Well, we went out there to Colorado, and I'm just saying it verbatim, it's the way I remember it. We went out to Colorado and we had a long talk with him. That was a lie. Mm-hmm. They never talked to him out there. They extradited him back to Indiana to speak with him 1 week before the first year press conference. You see what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Now, but again, I think that was he was reading off of the script because what he said was a lie.
Yeah.
He may not have knew it was a lie, but it was a lie.
He obviously didn't watch any of your videos to know that you guys had been in contact with Daniel Nations.
Holman watches my videos. That's why he stopped me at the second year. You aren't coming in, pal. Oh, no, you're not.
He scares me a little bit.
Yeah, Holman's a teddy bear, man.
Oh my. I want to call them and ask point blank my questions. Maybe.
Don't give it away.
Okay.
They'll halt you at the door, man. I'm telling you, man. They watch that and they say, like, okay, man, if Incognito Society calls,
It's a big
no,
no.
don't do it. She got bad intent, knowingly.
Bad intent. You know, we all as a community on YouTube keep this case talked about, and what does the news do? Nothing.
Yeah.
30-minute or a 30-second segment every couple months.
Miss Cavalier.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you've been missing.
Well, I've been listening and trying to learn.
Yes, but you are a special guest. You're supposed to be speaking. I don't make the rules, but we got to follow them.
It is amazing to me that, as accepted as it is for law enforcement to lie, that they are not better at it. Because it's, even with the Holman, Carter, Lazenby statements, you can pretty much tell when those guys are giving you information that may not be the best.
Yeah, I'll give that to you. And you know what?
Because I think, especially with Holman, did I lose you?
No, I was listening.
Okay. Excuse me. I think Holman is the one that lies the worst. He's not good at it.
You know what? I kind of got your back on that for this reason. Okay, when I went to the second year press conference, which was at the courthouse, I walked in. Now, him and Kim Riley approached me. Kim Riley was behind him. He comes up and he says, "You and your friends need to leave." I said, "I'm not leaving." "Yes, you got to leave." I said, "Hey, this is a public event, man. I ain't going anywhere." "No, this is for media." "Are you media?" "Yeah, media." "Let me see your credentials." I handed him my credentials card, man. He handed it back, didn't even look at it. Almost threw it back. He's like, "It's fake." And then he said, "You said you was going to get the Delphi reward money in a video," and sneered at me. And I looked at him and I'm like, okay, that's a lie. I said, "I've never, not one time ever, not on this." I didn't say that part to him, but I know it to be fact. Going back to my old channel, I told everybody no one was going to get that reward money. Because one, if you know the guy, yeah, you know what, you stand a chance. But it says in the fine print that what you say has got to lead to the arrest of the individual. My suspect was already under arrest and he had already been called in. That counts me out. You see what I'm saying? My information needs to lend toward his indictment and conviction, which it wouldn't. They already know what I know. Like I told everybody, unless you know who that person is and know exactly what they did, nobody's going to get that $500,000 reward money. So I said that time and time again on my channel. Now, the only thing that I did say, the only thing that I had said was I could maybe get a portion of the $20,000 reward money at Evansdale, because I did call that in. Okay, I did call that in and give them all the information. That was like a year ago. So yeah, man, if they gave me 10 grand out of that, but I mean, as far as the $500,000, it's like, no, that ain't even why I do this, is for the reward money, because, I do this so that people know the information that I know. And if I didn't think I was correct, I would shut my mouth and never open about the case, ever. There it is. So
Well,
yeah, I
then,
do think that, like what you were saying, I do think that Holman probably has a like a temper. You know what I mean? Where he gets like easily aggravated, and if he's got to lie, he probably feels it. and that probably makes them kind of a poor liar, maybe. But look, I'll tell you right now, law enforcement, they're trained to lie. They're trained to lie.
Yeah.
You lie about this and say, well, hey, man, your friends over there are saying, because that's what you do to get more information out of people. Lying to them is second nature. It just is. Now, sometimes, like when I call them, it's the way they lie that tells me what it is they're lying about. Because I know what I know what it is I'm shooting for, and I know that that's what they're trying to stop. I can tell if they hesitate or if they just like, oh, I can't answer that. You can always tell by the way they answer exactly how much they're trying to hold back. That's given me
Exactly.
Yep.
And I agree with you. I think that, well, in fact, I know that the state troopers in the state that I worked were trained to be deceiving. And they asked their questions very carefully. And that's why, I usually don't talk to, I'm not overly chatty with law enforcement when they're doing their job. I just have a tendency to watch, and they have the same tells that a poker player does.
Yeah.
And if you can find them, the most fun I ever had is when I was involved in a big lawsuit that was pretty substantial. And I figured out the opposing attorney's tell right away. And every time he was in trouble, he'd do the same thing. He'd lean back and put a smile on his face. And you knew that he was in trouble then, and it never failed. But he had a pretty good tell that was pretty obvious. I don't know how his success rate was in litigation, but I sure read it real quick. And I taught him that smart people can read upside down in the deposition process. And we can anticipate questions and memorize phone numbers. And so he just wasn't the caliber attorney that I thought he was, opposing. And I prevailed in that, but it was just interesting to see body language from everybody in the courtroom, not just the attorneys. And if you watch, you can tell, I think, and this isn't scientific, when law enforcement is not quite being truthful. I mean, when they're really lying. If you watch these guys and the reaction on their faces. I mean, these are your county deputies.
You know
and
what?
I'm not.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead and finish.
And I'm not undermining the quality of work that the county deputies do. It's just that they've never been faced with a double homicide, that they've had to be so deceitful to their public. And I think it starts to weigh on some of these guys because they don't like it.
Well, and I I see it from that side. I mean, I really do. We was talking about Sheriff Lesenby earlier, and again, I think he's a good guy. He comes off like a really good guy, and I respect him for that because I mean, look, I can remember back to Dennis Randall, who was a real POS, and Lesenby don't remind me of that. He really don't. Now, for him to sit and talk to you, and we seen him at the Bacon Fest. Hey, Sheriff Lesenby went over and talked to him. He was in Bermuda shorts, no hat. Really weird seeing him like that. He was all happy, smiley, just talking. He's a very good-natured guy. Now, if he's got to lie or stretch the truth or deceive you, you're right, because there are tells there. He knows what he's doing, and I don't think that he wants to be that way. But he has to be that way. You see where I'm at?
Yeah.
And
Oh, I agree.
And that would be bothersome to a person. And again, man, there's cops out there that lie under, behind every word. They're just constant liars. It's what makes them good at what they do. They don't care. Others do. Now, another one that fits that mold is Trooper Kim Riley. Now, when I was talking to him, if you watch his face, he was, I don't know how to put it. It was almost like he had like a nervous half smile, when he was talking to me.
I saw that.
Because he didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to answer. And I had told Greeno after the fact that, man, we may have caught him off guard because that was like way more information. Nobody got information like that. Nobody. No one at that press conference. And he handed it to me like over here with the camera on him. He knew that. And I was like, that was some damn good information. But again, you could tell that maybe even after he had said it, man, he realized, you know what, I may have said too much, because then he's like, well, maybe he has. We can't find no trace of him. It was just one of those things where I think that he may have said a little bit too much without realizing, and then realized it and kind of cut it short. See where I'm at?
Mm-hmm. Yep. He probably regrets that day.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sure he does. I'm sure he heard about it. I'm sure everybody.
He
said, "What? Are you kidding me, dude?" You know what? You're going to be doing dishes for the next 3 months, bro.
Yeah.
You.
Desk duty.
Yeah.
No, traffic duty.
Yeah.
Traffic.
Oh, the worst.
They hate that word.
Yeah. Parking.
But I picked up the same smile with Riley. I picked up the very same smile.
Yeah. You can see.
So it's like it was frozen in time there for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Until he could recover and realize that he might have said too much.
Yeah.
But
I was grateful. I mean, I was,
exactly.
And I wouldn't say that to him because, really, when you think about the overall, saying that to him is like, yeah, dude, man, there was tickets wrote over that shit. I don't know how he would take to that, because I probably wouldn't bring it up to him because, yeah, it's like, man, I don't want to give cops a hard time unless they got it coming. But if they got it coming, it's coming for me. No, that shit, right?
And it's just like Lazenby when you say that, he's a community leader and he's more of a cheerleader than a law enforcement officer, because he has to get along with every person in that community and every person in the county. And he doesn't want to make enemies unnecessarily.
Right.
He has to take care of people. And it probably bothers him the worst to know what he knows, having to live with it.
Yeah.
And to mislead his public. So, you have to feel a little compassion for him.
Well, on that right there, and this is what I take it back to and have time and time again. When he found out who did it, once it was confirmed to him that, yes, not only does his fingerprints match, not only do the two people that seen him say the same, yeah, it's the guy I seen. Well, then he knew the guy was down there in jail. Okay. So now, as it goes, we can kind of like persuade the public to believe a little different because they are safe. This guy's no longer out there doing anything. So I think that could help mentally when you got to play along, with this. Well, he could be in the very room. We think he's 18 to 40. Well, what do? You got to sit there and do that because, as soon as you say, yeah, we believe we know who did it, but he's in another jail and we got to wait a while, the whole world is going to show up at your door going, is it Thomas Bruce? How do you know? Is the DNA? Then it's going to be a circus. They don't want that shit. And that's why I'm saying, man, they got to wait till it completes, till they can go talk to him, charges filed.
Right.
So you don't think that there's going to be any kind of a major announcement coming up on the 3-year mark?
No, I suspect not. And here's why. If they did, look at it like this. The only thing that they could answer at a press conference, where the press is there, because they're going to have all these questions. Now, the only thing that you can answer to is your investigation. It can't be anything that he said. And anything that you tell the media, you're telling him, you're telling his defense this. So, that's why I don't think that they're going to announce it at the 3rd. But since after the October of next year, on the 4th or right before the 4th, then they'll announce it, I believe. Because otherwise, if they come out and say this guy did it, well, they would have to have an admission in order to do that, because they could have did that last year. They could have did that at the Delphi briefing rather than mislead people. They could have came out and said, okay, we know who did it. So why would they wait a year when nobody's pressuring them about Thomas Bruce? Why would they come out and announce it then when they could have a year ago?
Well, and I think you're absolutely correct. And I think that what at least I have a tendency to forget is that this time is being used by the prosecutor to put an ironclad case together. And that takes time. Because you have to have proof and backup for everything. And I think they're using this time wisely. I really do.
And I would hope so. I would hope so, man.
Oh, I believe. Now, this older prosecutor came out of retirement to prosecute this case.
Now, that's what Incognito Society was saying.
That's what I believe, but
that's why Ives was back at that.
Well, now, I remember reading something about it, but I haven't heard anything lately.
Oh, yeah. They won't talk about nothing lately. Yeah. It's been at least 6 months. Which you would think as much...
It's since and if there's a way to find out if the old prosecutor's back on the payroll.
Easy enough to find out, I believe.
A lot.
Right. By the way, I wanted to tell you, Miss Cavalier, great job with finding the information for Kat tonight on the Jeep Cherokee. That's awesome.
Well, it's just something I happened to stumble on, so I was glad to be of help.
That's awesome.
You do know who she is,
right? Miss Cavalier?
Yes.
Her real name?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I just didn't know if she wanted
to
say that here. Yeah. So trying to.
I thought you did know. I thought we had said something.
Yes. I totally understand.
I have to tell you, Miss Cognito, I really admire what you do.
Well, thank you.
And there's, 3 or 4 people that I've gotten involved with, and I don't have a YouTube channel yet. I might before this is over, but I'm not going to concentrate. I think the Delphi thing is solved. I really do.
I agree.
And I think that, there's much more to do on it as soon as something breaks loose. And I think it's going to take a little bit of information, to see where Thomas Bruce has been and see what crimes in those areas aren't solved.
Exactly. I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg of what he has done in his life.
I agree.
I wanted to break in here for a minute. Alaska Blue missed the part with the vehicle.
Oh.
So if I could back that up for a minute and kind of show her what it was we was initially talking about. Just give me one quick second here. I need to back this up here a little bit.
Hey, Michael,
Now,
your
this is
mans,
what.
or whatever you call them, avatars, even smaller.
Well, yeah, so people can see the screen.
I'm just giving you a
Can
hard
you guys?
time.
Can you see what I'm looking at?
I see it.
Yeah, what this is, I think, is the 2012 tax records. I can't see it
Tax
really
year
well.
2012, right here. Completed. Now it's
And
down here. Let
that's
me
from
pull that
Jefferson
up.
County.
This is the vehicle in question right there. A 1988 Jeep Cherokee four-wheel drive. That belonged to Thomas Bruce. He paid taxes on that in the year 2012. I want to point that out, that he owned that in 2012. Now I go next to the picture of a 1988 Ford Bronco four-wheel drive white, exactly like the one he owned. That's it right there. That is the vehicle that was used in Evansdale. And hang on, because I'm going to take this right to the profile of it. Not that one. Not that one. That's where the bikes were parked in Evansdale. That's where he was parked in the circle. No, crap. Man, I got to back this way up. There it is, right here. Let me blow it up for everybody. This right here says, 2 witnesses said they seen a white SUV parked between 2 bike trail signs, which is where I was just showing, according to KWWL Channel 7. The other witness told police they saw the vehicle parked near the woods on the east side of the lake, a few hundred feet from where the bikes were found. All 3 witnesses said they had seen the SUV sometime between 11:30 and 12:30 p.m. on July 13th, 2012. You know what? I went through everywhere, but it did not mention the. Oh, there it is. It was way up at the top. All right. Now it says 3 separate witnesses who said they saw a white, older style, full size SUV type vehicle, similar to a Chevy Suburban or a Ford Bronco. Now that's the vehicle I was looking for. And the 1988 Jeep Cherokee that fits that billing entirely. That's what I was looking at.
Hey, Michael, I don't mean to interrupt, but can you look at your email real quick? It does have to do with that.
Okay.
I just sent it to you. Don't read it out loud.
You know what? I'm taking my screen thing off here. There we go.
Yeah. Look at what I sent you and then check.
Okay. Checking now. Feel free to ramble.
Oh, okay.
Talk about your day.
Well, it's Friday 13th, a full moon, and it has been 13 weeks since the last Friday 13th.
Wow.
Yeah. It is very superstitious today.
Does that mean I have to watch for serial killers when I
Yes.
walk outside?
Yeah, absolutely. Always watch for serial killers, even the nice guy next door.
Yeah, those are the ones that scare me now.
Right?
Okay, yeah, I do see what you're saying. I do.
Okay.
And I have noticed that. And you know what? Let me ask Miss Cavalier about that. On the papers, is that okay if I do?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. On the papers that you had given me concerning that vehicle, because it does say, you know what? Let me go check the wording real quick. It says Boston, Bruce T. and Diana. Now, why is there a Boston there? Under owner name.
The word Boston, as in the community of Boston,
Okay.
is that what it says? I don't remember it.
Well, it says owner name, but it says Boston, comma, Bruce T. and Diana.
I don't know, Michael. I can tell you that the 2012 information came from Diana Bruce's tax records. It
Okay.
wasn't joint that I remember.
Well, I did notice that it had Boston on it, but I didn't know why. But I did see Bruce T, which I assume because it only gives her first name. You see.
So she was
I'm
married
gonna have to
before?
look at that. I don't think that's something that I can answer,
Okay.
but I know that I went several times to that site, and it was under Diana Bruce's name
Okay.
I wonder if she was married
and not
before.
his name.
Well, you know what? I don't know what year they got married, but I do know that he has an ex-wife.
Yeah, I've been looking into that and I'm trying to figure out who it is.
Now, if her last name was Boston at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Thomas Bruce Diana Boston, that could be. But if it
I
gave
don't think it. I don't think her last name was Boston. I don't. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna have to, like I said, I'm gonna have to look at it.
okay, yeah, please do, and let us know
I will let you know.
because, like H. Ross Pro, I am all ears.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, how many places can you think of off the top of your head have you found that he has, or states that he's lived in?
Oh, geez,
A lot, isn't it?
yeah,
I have 8,
8, really?
but I don't know if it's actually him, but it's, from Nebraska to Texas, California, Missouri, blah, blah, blah.
You see, I never found anything like that. Most of them was California. I know he lived in Michigan. I know he lived in Missouri. I'm thinking of other ones. Trying, but there's probably any number of places where he was like at a dock, Navy wise. I mean, whenever they'd have shore duty, I mean,
Mhm.
there'd be a lot of shit like that, where you could maybe find some off the wall crimes. I mean, just like down there at that CSI school, with Susan Collins.
Yeah, unless he admits to that, or there's some kind of, I don't know how we would ever find out if he was involved because they won't even let DNA to be tested in that case.
Well, I did write him a letter.
You did again?
Of course, a great big thick letter, man. I mean, they're like, covering a lot of information. But I did bring up the fact about Mary Pryor, but I said, hey, that fits her avenue, man. I mean, let's look at it honestly. That's you, bro. So I said, and that really brought new life to Susan Collins. But if you did do Susan Collins and that was you, and you let another man go down for it like that, geez, pal. Holy shit, you're a real wipe of the ass.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just imagine if it was him, and
Yeah.
okay, to scratch this whole thing going on, all those years, he knew suddenly Allie died for that.
Yeah.
He's he would be that type of person to sit back and laugh. I think
Yeah.
about.
He would have to be.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, Michael and I have had conversations about this, and I don't think Barry Scheck is going to let go of
Yeah.
a judge's order. I think he'll take it to appeals
I agree.
and file motions. And in the end, I think they'll get their DNA.
Definitely. I hope so anyway. There's no reason not to. It's just kind of like reminds me of the case Making a Murderer. That's all about money as well.
Well, I think it is, but I don't think the state of Tennessee wants to start writing checks.
No, not in that amount. No, man, that would be hundreds of millions. I mean, they would like sue his ass. Tennessee would be underwater for a minute. But I think that they may know that.
Well, they have to know it's
like
coming.
legally speaking, I think that once that they've executed a man who had confessed, they can say, well, this while it's evidence, it no longer pertains. We killed that guy. So no, you can't have this because now this belongs to the state. You know, they could go through any route that they wanted because they don't want to have to pay that money out. And they damn sure that, you know, the prosecutor, they don't want to have to pay that money out. Nobody's going to want to be out of money for pushing the case to making money. And the money's the whole lowdown of it right there.
Well, I think that's a pretty good guess. But it will be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, it will. And again, it's kind of my hope that nothing is revealed in the next year on it. After that, fine. But the thing is I don't want it to withhold the death penalty in Indiana because then they could look at it like from a leftist point of view. But look how many people have died in it, you know, and it's just, you know, I want to reach through YouTube and get charges on those people. But this guy needs to die. And that still don't bring the girls home. I mean, nothing that we could do is ever going to fix the equation. But come on, man, there's got to be a sense of public justice concerned here.
Well, I think that you're right, and I don't know where Miss Cognito stands on this, but
She says off with his head.
Absolutely.
I know her. I know how she thinks. She's evil. She dresses like a bunny, and you know why? She kills carrots.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay,
Right.
well, Michael, I am going to sign off here. I appreciate the opportunity that you provided to me today. I enjoyed this thoroughly, and I will get back with you in the next couple of days, and we'll move on with investigating.
Okay, because I was hoping you'd be around till the end here pretty quick, but
how about I sign off and Miss Cavalier, you stay, okay? Because this was your show.
Well, how much longer are you thinking, Michael?
Well, you know what? I was probably going to run it till the top of an hour, about 18 more minutes. But you know, I wanted to thank you for being, you know, my guest tonight because, you know, you really brought me forth a great piece of evidence, something that I've been after since last summer, and I knew it could be found out there publicly, and you nailed it and you got it for me, and that is a huge weight off my shoulders because now it really does show a more direct comparison between Evansdale and Delphi. It shows, yes, this guy is the guy. He did have that car, you know, and if you look at the number of cars out there that would fit that description, there's very few. Now, when I mentioned this to Icons the other day, I just brought up the type of vehicle. He's like, wait, you talking like an old Jeep Cherokee? I'm like, damn, dude. Like, right on. You nailed it. You know, it's like, you cannot do better than that. I said, it was a 1988 Jeep Cherokee. He's like, yeah, that'll work. It's like, man, have you done this for a living?
That's eerie, actually.
Yeah, but Michael, I've got it at least back in the 80s and 70s and 60s and 50s. You could look at a car. You didn't have to have an emblem. You could tell what kind it was. And cars had style.
Yeah, now, I'm with you.
You can't tell a Lexus from a Nissan to a Kia.
True.
Yeah.
And
All
they're
cars are
all
starting to look alike.
SUVs. Yep.
Well,
There's
hey.
no sense of style. Absolutely none.
Great to talk
And
to
I
you, Miss
can't.
Cavalier. I'm going to get off here so you guys can finish the show, okay?
Okay. Hey, thanks for being here with us tonight at Incognito Society. We enjoyed it, man. You have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye, everyone.
Absolutely. And you have a real admirer from this end.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And this.
Good night, guys.
Bye. Okay, it is back to you and I.
So I think
And
that we're going to have a lull here, and it's a good time to just start checking as many facts as we possibly can, because when law enforcement chooses to make their announcement, it's going to start everybody looking.
well, I don't know that you watched my last video.
I watched a whole bunch of them.
I said because I took in and I had notarized and recorded 100 deductions on the Delphi and Evansdale cases. Now, some of them was one sentence and others were like half of a page, and I thought I really should have condensed that a little better, made it like 200. But what I did, Icons was like, dude, send me that shit. He's like, get it to me. He goes, you know what? I'll put that out there. It'll be foolproof. I said, all right, dude, you got it, man. So I send it to him, man. He's got that. So now I got to get that. I'm just going to go ahead and get it recorded again, but I'm going to do it in Howard and Carroll County.
I think that's a good idea. I don't know what exactly protections it will offer. But
hey, Icon said foolproof.
It could be.
I don't question Icon.
Nope, I'm not in a position to question him either. And if I do, you know that I've got the facts backing, and I just don't have them right now in that. So I'm way outside my comfort zone discussing that. But I think it's a good idea to do exactly what you've done.
Well, when I brought it up to him about the case, I said, well, you know why I'm working on this? He's like, for the reward money. I'm like, no, man. I said, the last thing I'm ever going to get is like reward money. I said, that was out like long beforehand, because I heard it through the media. When you hear it through the media, that guy's already turned in one. I don't know if they can give it to law enforcement, but because law enforcement turned it in, you would expect that the FBI would give that money to the county, like Carroll County and Blackhawk County, 250 grand a piece, because that seems like that would be the right thing to do. But I told him, I'm like, no, I do it because if I got information that people out there want, then why am I not giving it to them? It's the same thing you do. I was telling him, it's like about freedom, sovereignty. This information, but other people have no idea about this information. You give them that information. I said, and that's why I do it. It's basically to say, this is what I know. This is what I've deduced. This is what you can take to be real. This is what you can take to be in part theory. All right. I said, the reason I want these deductions protected is for this reason. Anybody writing a book, anybody making a movie, anybody using those deductions that was deduced by me before released by law enforcement, that's what I want claim to. Just that. Those were my deductions prior to. Now, with having that makes me feel good. Even if I don't make a dime on it, I still feel good because that was me. That puts me one step up on a lot of other people that said, oh, we're deducing this case. Like my ass, you're making up theories, man. That's all you doing, man.
Well, and there's a couple of things. I don't think that with the Crime Stoppers and the different sources for reward money in the Delphi case,
Uh-huh.
I don't believe law enforcement or a municipality can accept a reward
No.
from
You know what?
anybody.
You're right. And I got a quick story on this. I'll make it very fast. The sheriff's name was Buck Stanley. All right. And he was a Cass County sheriff right up here in Logansport, straight up from Carroll County. Now, this goes back to Amber Green. I think that the year was 1868, and he had got it through word of mail that was being sent from place to place to place to get to him about where they was down in Texas. So he gets on a horse and he travels down to Texas, finds them, arrests them, and brings them back on horse. Took him months to do. Months. The reward money for that was $3,000. When he brought him in, Carroll County's like, yeah, we ain't paying you shit, dude. You're law enforcement. You can't work for the reward. Piss off. And man, that really hurt him, man. That really, that hurt him because, I mean, he went down there and spent all that time to go get him for Carroll County and didn't even get the reward. And I mean, I kind of have his side on that, except for one thing. It's like if it's law enforcement and it comes back unknown Delphi prints, what makes you the winner? It's like hitting the lottery. It's like, oh, you was that lucky officer, that seen it and called it in. You see where I'm at?
Right.
And that don't play because there was no work on that. Like I said, man, nobody turned it in. Nobody could have turned it in. It was turned in by law enforcement. So nobody would get that FBI reward money. So if it was split and Blackhawk got their $250,000, Carroll County got $250,000, then all's good. You see where I'm at?
Oh, I agree. I just don't think, and the FBI may have wiggle room to designate that, but I don't believe that that'll be happening.
Well, if they don't give it to the counties, then where would it go? Like a vacation for the FBI, I mean, what would they do with that money? They wouldn't give it back to the people.
No, but they do refund it back directly to the source. So if Crime Stoppers say had 175,000, they would get that back into their accounts, and then it would be up to Crime Stoppers to refund whoever donated those individual contributions.
Okay.
So,
well,
and a lot of people just say keep it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because I mean, look, if I put money toward an investigation, now that investigation was done, that guy's arrested. Well, I put that money up for somebody. So I think it would be in my heart to say, well, the county should get that, because they're the ones that suffered here.
And, somebody might be able to do that. And I agree that, that could happen, but the likelihood I'd have to vote against it, just because. And the community has taken a hit. There's a lot of people that are unsure of themselves, and they're not getting a lot of assurance from law enforcement right now that the community is totally safe. I haven't heard that. I mean, it was one statement from law enforcement a while ago that said the community's safe, and now there's nothing.
Yeah, that what? That was almost right off the bat. And even at that time, I said, man, that's a bold statement. Now, I mean, look, I can understand Sheriff Lesenby calling the search off. And he said that was multiple parties that had said that. The reason? They had searched the trail. They searched that trail. And, their family said, look, they're very familiar with this area. One girl lived right up the street. She was very familiar with the people that lived around there. She knew the area. They said they wasn't running off. I don't think they got lost. Okay. So the thing is the trail was searched. Well, that led the because look, we don't have double homicides happen like that in Delphi all the time, right? We don't at all. This being number two, but the other ones was an old couple. First time two young girls were murdered there. So he obviously didn't think that it was foul play and the girls were murdered and right there. Now he may have felt like, hey, maybe they did run away or maybe they were abducted, but we're calling the search off. Now I didn't have any bones about that because it wasn't about it being cold. But the thing is there was no signs of foul play. The girls weren't at that trail. You see where I'm at? But then to come out and say after you find them dead in that manner, no, yeah, no, the public's fine. I'm all like, yeah, if you got a man out there that did that and you don't know who it is and you're telling the public that, that's a bold statement. It really is. That ain't something I would have said.
Well, and I think the community, from what I can see of where people have been interviewed, they're still on edge because this isn't a closed case. It's still pending. And unfortunately, law enforcement's not giving up a lot of information that's comforting to people who live there.
Yeah. And and that could be a part of it. And again, I think that might be Sheriff Lesenby's personality. He wants people to be calm. He don't want them like freaking out, like everybody's in danger, because he had no idea who this person was. He had no idea when they was going to catch him. I mean, the FBI, the state of Indiana, surrounding counties, nobody knew. So, I mean, he had to say something to keep the public under control. He didn't want them beating their doors down saying who did it because obviously they couldn't tell. See what I mean? I mean, he had to say something. But again, it was a bold statement to say that because what if this guy went and did that again right there? Then people would be like, but you said. But again, I mean, I see his point for saying it. I mean, I know his reasoning for saying it, but it's one of those things. You got to do as the sheriff does.
Exactly. And it's been interesting taking a look at this case and figuring out how to research it.
Pushing 3 years here. 3 years. 3 years on one case. Let me tell you something. In 3 years' time, you really get to know that case. You really do. I mean, there is
as much as you can.
Yeah, I mean, there are some things that I don't know. There are things that I don't want to know. But the things that I do know all point to the same.
And I agree with you. I think Thomas Bruce did this, and I think he's done many other crimes.
I believe the same. I believe that there's, from what we know, what we put together. I mean, Evansdale tied to Delphi for reasons. And then you sent me the other one as well. And I'm like, yeah, because I really had to look at that. When you first sent that to me and I looked at it, I thought it was on the other side of the state from, where his family was. I didn't know it was a 2-minute drive up the highway. It was like, holy shit, he may have knew that lady. He may have knew of her.
He very well could have. She was, just a nice lady who took care of her own business, and that was it. And wanted to live out her life in peace, and she didn't get that.
That's what he does.
Not at all.
That's the people that he attacks. Those are the people that he commits brutality on. That tells me evil, man. That tells me that he was working both sides of that fence, if you know what I mean.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And I think there's a lot more places to look.
That's what we'll be doing.
And I would be interested in seeing the addresses that Incognito has.
Okay, yeah.
Because I've seen some of those, and I'm not sure they're connected, but I haven't looked at them that close.
See, no, I got his army, the dates he was in the army, I can pretty much tell you the year he got out. When he moved to, I believe, first St. Louis. That may have been Flint. I think it was Flint. Now, here's what's weird about Flint. When they have him living in Flint, is the exact date of the Evansdale murder. It was July 13th to July 13th. And I thought, wow, that's weird. Why would they mark down that he was there for one day? You know what I mean?
I think that's an error.
Yeah. I say because that's like
But
renting a hotel room.
Yeah. Or staying in an RV place. If he still had that RV.
Oh, also another thing I wanted to point out. So everybody knows that on this day, this very day, Friday, December the 13th, back in 1985, I swore into the United States Army under Reagan. On Friday the 13th, 1985. And here it is, Friday, December the 13th, 2019. Seems like yesterday, man. Seems like just the other day. But 34 years ago, I joined the Army. There, now everybody knows. There it is.
Yep. And thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome. I only did my time and got out. I was wanting to be a lawyer then. I was young, cocky, and arrogant little prick. And I changed a little bit. A little, I did.
How much was that? How much have you changed?
Just a little.
Okay.
I mean, I'm older now.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
All right,
Michael,
hey,
thank you.
but hold on a minute. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you lead us out of the show, but I want you to stay here for a minute, okay?
Okay.
So, all right, go ahead and do your goodbye.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I didn't think we'd last 3 hours, but we did good.
Yeah, I told you we would.
Okay, you take care and keep Wolfie warm.
He's warm. He's way warm. He's all the time warm. I get him swaddled all the time.
Okay. You take care and I'll hang in there until you say goodbye.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, everybody. That is the video for this evening. I will be back probably within 3 days because I got the other part edited and I need to film tomorrow. But once I edit that, I'm putting out the timestamp video, one that cannot be touched, man. It is going to rock. So keep your eyes open for that. It should be up by Monday. And with that, I will see you in my next video. Peace, y'all. Thanks, by the way. Thanks, moderator. Thank you, Alaska Blue. Incognito Society, Peaches. Well, have a good evening.